Hi all, welcome, welcome. I think we are now live. Gonna wait for people to come in. You can see that there is breaking news, so I have gone live early. Israel has agreed to a ceasefire with Hamas. This is huge news. In about 3 hours, the ceasefire will start. This is obviously great news for everybody. Unexpected for it to have happened this soon. There's a lot of nuance here. It's not, sunshines and rainbows, certainly. But it's good news. It's good news. So we will dive into this full force. It's breaking just now. So I will be looking at updates from the ground as it comes in. Everybody smash the like button if you are on YouTube. If you're on Twitch, hello, follow us, share the stream everywhere. Yep, about 3 hours until the ceasefire starts. And so Joshua Rowley on YouTube says 3 hours until the ceasefire starts. I guess Israel has 3 hours to use up all their bombs. So reporting from Al Jazeera on the ground, who have spoken to people in Gaza, say, they're worried. They're still worried that those bombs could be used and that anything could happen in those 3 hours. So as I said, it's not all sunshine and rainbows. Anything could happen, but this is good news as far as what could be the case. This could have been dragging on and on. We know that many children have died. Many innocent Palestinians have died. So this, for right now, I'm glad. So we will dive in. Let me tell Colin that I am live. Good with text. If you're just joining us, go ahead and smash the like button. Yeah, I don't even know if I said thank God. It is truly a saying. Whether you believe in God or not, it is a saying that people have. Thank God, thank whoever, thank the lucky stars, whatever you want to say. It is a good thing, because in 3 hours, those bombs will stop flying towards Gaza. It's been heartbreaking, obviously, as we've all watched the people in Gaza just carrying their babies, running towards the hospitals, as we've heard, the top three of the top doctors in Gaza have been murdered. The one COVID testing center is gone. Dozens and dozens and dozens of Palestinian children are murdered. So yeah, thank God, thank whoever, thank, I don't know, think whatever you want to think. I'm happy that this is happening. There's a long way to go. There's a lot, this can't be the end of people putting pressure on. This can't be the end of it all. We can't just all go back to sleep now, but this is good news. Breaking news, if you're just joining us, obviously Israel has agreed to a ceasefire with Hamas. This is news is coming in, so I will be catching up with everything as it does come in. Let's see. Okay, so the text has gone out. Again, if you are not on our text list, please text COUP to 370-370. Text COUP to 370-370, and then you will get news as we go live, just like this, because you cannot rely on YouTube to inform you of breaking news like this. So I'll put up some comments as we wait for more people to come in. So I Einklein says Gaza is like a big concentration camp. I mean, some people would take issue with calling it that, but whatever you want to call it, it is commonly referred to as an open air prison. So those in Gaza cannot leave. It is truly an open air prison. So when those bombs are flying towards them, they can't go away. There's nowhere for them to go. They can't go anywhere. They were literally, the families were literally exchanging children with one another. So if, one family had 2 children and another family had another 2 children, they would swap, 1 child each, for example, so that each family could have the possibility of being left with 1 living child, just in case one family or one house got hit and the other didn't. That's what it was like, because it's not like they could, leave by sea or leave by land, because they're trapped in Gaza. They can't leave. So that's what, someone said, it's not good news or they're not happy. Well, you have to be happy. As I said, it's not over. The journey is not over. The fight is not over. But it is good news, because tonight, at least in 3 hours from now, at least those bombs will stop. At least those children, the families who've had to exchange their children in the hopes that one of them will survive, they won't have to do that in 3 hours. So many have lost entire families. There's one family, I don't want to say the exact number, but they lost several family members of one family. That is not the only case either. Please smash the like button, not because maybe you do like the topic, whether you like the topic or not, whether it's, no matter what, smash the like button, because that gets YouTube's algorithm moving. So if you're on YouTube, do that. If you are on Twitch, follow us wherever you are watching this, share it. Make sure the word gets out so we can have an in-depth discussion about what is going on. Share your comments as we wait for more people to come in. We've been live for about 7 minutes, so I'll give maybe until 10 minutes in before I dive into exactly what's going on. So Beauty and the Diabetes says, how long will this ceasefire last? Israel is known to violate all of them. So I think that's a smart question. Netanyahu is obviously not doing this out of the goodness of his heart. He's not doing this because he cares about Palestinians. He's doing this because of something else. We don't have all of the details right now. We don't know what's been happening behind the scenes. We do know that Biden approved a $700+ million weapons deal a few days ago. So could it be that, there were further discussions behind the scenes? I don't expect that Biden put a whole lot of pressure on Netanyahu, but it really was, in the end, the United States that was kind of the sole holdout on putting pressure on Israel. So I wonder what kind of details we will learn about that, about what Biden may have said or done, or what kind of further pressure was put on Biden. One of the stories I was going to do today was Bernie Sanders kind of, he was going to be forcing other senators to go on record with their support or not for that $700+ million weapons deal for Israel. So that was Bernie kind of forcing that issue. So I don't know what was going on behind the scenes. I don't know how long, and nobody, of course, knows how long the ceasefire will last. This is, of course, the worst kind of thing, the worst kind of violation, the worst series of murders and war crimes that Israel's committed since 2014. It's, of course, ongoing. And the daily lives of those in Gaza, it is truly a prison. And it is truly, they don't have clean water day to day. They don't have food. Their food is rationed and horrible. And they're forced to eat things like spices. And they're on this strange diet, and they're truly treated awful. And that sort of thing doesn't make the news day to day. So it's not just a matter of when they're bombed and the stories in the spotlight all the time. It's also the day-to-day lives, and of course, you know, the occupied spaces and all of that. So I don't know. Nobody knows. And of course, as I mentioned, the reports on the ground from those in Gaza, you know, out of Al Jazeera, which I was watching right before I went live. Those in Gaza are terrified. You know, what could happen in these next 3 hours? Anything could happen. Nobody knows, and it's right for them to be worried. It's not happening in good faith. Netanyahu is not doing this in good faith. It's about something. It's about money, or it's about weapons, or it's about something. It's not about Palestinian lives, certainly. So I think that's a great question. Absolutely. So smash the like button once again if you are on YouTube. Share this stream. JG says, Rashida Tlaib going after Biden right up in his face was so badass. It was badass of Rashida, who of course is Palestinian. And I have to say and point out that Biden's, you know, his body language in those photos, if that were Bernie Sanders, can you just imagine the media response to that, where Bernie is always painted as being this misogynistic, horrible guy? Well, Biden, I'm sure you all have seen the photos, and I'm not, you know, reporting on this right now, or I would have pulled those photographs up, but he's, you know, just standoffish and horrible. And of course, I've tweeted about this, but Biden being asked by a reporter, you know, can I ask you a question at that same trip in Michigan? And I asked you a question about Israel, and Biden said no. And he threatened jokingly to run the reporter over. Like, what a weirdo, what a psycho, what a weird answer. So Joe Biden has been very not forthcoming on Israel. He is a stated Christian Zionist, very friendly with Netanyahu. He has given, you know, the old American line of Israel has the right to defend itself, which completely erases the fact of what is truly happening to Palestinians and to those in Gaza. So, okay, we've been going for about 12 minutes, so I will go ahead and get on with the breaking news here. Continue smashing the like button if you are on YouTube. Share this stream no matter where you are. YouTube is, of course, suppressing us as they've been doing. But that's okay. We will continue reporting. This is huge, huge news. Again, if you are just joining us, the ceasefire between Israel and Hamas will start in about 3 hours. So this is sooner, much sooner than a lot of people suspected. A lot of people thought that this would continue for weeks and weeks and weeks. A lot of people thought that this slaughter of Palestinians would go on. And in fact, Netanyahu released chilling statements even yesterday saying that he wanted it to continue until there was silence, until it was quiet, which sent a chill through my heart. What does that mean? Until it's quiet, until it's silent? Does that mean until the Palestinians are dead and gone? Well, that's certainly what it sounded like. So something happened. We don't know. We don't know what led to this this decision, this kind of change in tone or decision. So I'll be looking for more information as more comes in. Tina will be joining me in a bit. This live stream was moved up a bit due to this breaking news. So let's get to it here. So this reporting, or this latest update, is out of the BBC, and they're giving these live updates. So the summary here, Israel's. Let me try to zoom in for you guys a bit. Here we go. Israel's Security Cabinet agrees to a ceasefire deal to end 11-day conflict with Gaza militants. And it's actually difficult to think about the fact that this has only been going on for 11 days. It's kind of taken up the consciousness of the entire world. It's been 11 days of absolute horror. When you see just the daily reports of the murdered children and the murdered babies, and thinking of the targeted doctors, the top doctors, and the targeted schools, and the AP, taking down the building where the Associated Press and Al Jazeera were housed, and the lies and propaganda that have come from Israel and the IDF. And it seems to have been much longer, but it has only been 11 days. So further summary, it says the truce was proposed by Egypt. So that's additional information there, and would be mutual and unconditional. The main Palestinian armed groups in Gaza, Hamas and Islamic Jihad, confirm the ceasefire. They say the ceasefire will come into force at 2 local time on Friday, again, so now that's about 2.5 hours now. But Israel has not confirmed this. Egypt is sending security delegations to Israel and the Palestinian territories to help uphold ceasefire, state TV says. So I have to say, I don't know, again, this reporting is, of course, by the BBC. Reporting can change all the time. I really think that the United States had to have played some part in this. Netanyahu's not just going to give up because Egypt proposes a peace solution or some kind of truce. There's something else at play. There's money at play. There's weapons at play. There's something else at play here. It's not Egypt saying, "Oh, let's be friends for now." There's something else going on, certainly. New Israeli airstrikes hit Gaza on Thursday as fighting entered an 11th day. Palestinian militants launched more rockets at Israel, but numbers are down. The fighting has claimed at least 232 lives in Gaza and 12 in Israel. So I always want to mention, when they talk about, the conflict that's happening, the conflict, and they try to paint it as if this is like an equal thing going on here, that they try to both sides it, like, oh, it's Israel versus the Palestinians. No, that's not what it is. It's, yes, when people have you in a prison, or sort of, an outdoor prison, and are trying to murder you, you're going to fight back. Or when people are stealing your house and kicking you out wrongly, you're going to fight back. You're going to try to throw rocks at them. Yes, you're going to do that. You're going to protest. Yes, you're going to do that. You're going to have weapons. You're going to try to fight back. The weapons that the Palestinians have, that Hamas has, you say what you want about Hamas. There's a lot of differences of opinions about Hamas. I personally cannot, there are those, like Abby Martin has her thoughts on Hamas. She says they're democratically elected, that they're not a terrorist organization. Bernie Sanders says, yes, Hamas is a terrorist organization. They've got to go. I think most people would say Hamas is a terrorist organization. They have to go. But Hamas is, in fact, elected. So I think no matter where you stand on them, they do not have, the oppressor is the state of Israel, is the IDF. They are the ones in power. The Hamas, the Israelis, or excuse me, the Palestinian side, they do not have the weaponry. They don't have the same firepower, the same weapons that Israel has. So when Israel says, oh, we're being hit by these rockets, we're being hit by these whatevers, that is not the same equivalent of what Israel has. Israel is able to target everything. So when Israel is sending in these their bombs, these rockets, they're able to target everything. So when they're like murdering, the top COVID doctor, the top 3 doctors in Gaza, that's on purpose. When they're taking down XYZ, when they're threatening to take down UN schools, when they're taking down, the only COVID testing center, that's on purpose. They're able to target everything. Israel has their dome. They have everything. They have the top, weaponry. They have all of our money. They have like everything they could ever need or want. Israel has the best surveillance. Israel has it all. Okay. So it's a very false equivalency to say that this is a conflict or like an equal anything. Whatever you think about Hamas, you cannot say this is Israel versus Palestine. That's not it. Israel is the oppressor. That is not to say that Israelis, the people, that is not to say that the people are bad. I've said this over and over and over. The people of Israel are good. They're people just like us. Like, our country sucks. The United States is terrible. We are terrorists in the United States. Our country kills brown people all over the world. We have military bases all over the world. We're horrible. We're disgusting. Awful. Does that mean you and I are bad? No, it doesn't. This conflation of like Israelis are bad or Jewish people are bad is horrible. And I spent a lot of my morning fighting with people on Twitter who took issue with me saying anti-Semitism is bad. Don't be anti-Semitic. And people are fighting with me. What? Go to hell. Go away. Go get lost. Ridiculous. So saying what the state of Israel is doing or the IDF is doing is wrong and bad and murderous and like is running an apartheid state and is like ethnic cleansing, like that is, yes, that doesn't mean the people of Israel are bad. There are great, like wonderful, beautiful people in Israel. Yes. Don't get it twisted. So what the state of Israel is doing is horrible. They are murdering children. They're doing awful, awful, awful things. You can't, the way that the media writes this and twists this, it drives me insane. And the BBC is doing it right now. They're making it seem like it's the same thing. Like Palestinians throwing a rock at Israelis is nothing. It's not the same thing. Israel has the best weapons in the world and the best surveillance in the world and the best targeting in the world. That is not the same thing. Their tweets are psychotic. If you guys look at the IDF's social media and the @Israel social media, it is batshit. Like the craziest propaganda I've ever seen in my life. I don't know how people fall for it. Like even the most brainwashed people, I don't know how they fall for it. I am baffled. Anyway, thank you so much for the super chat. The Ranter Station, $4.99. Also, go check out the Ranter Station's YouTube channel. We saved Palestine via rant. Watch and read Israel Stop Your SHRT on ranterstation.com. Thank you. An Israeli top official said they were proud to be a fascist. Yeah, so one of the things that we talked about with Ronnie Barkin, who's an Israeli, born and raised Israeli, is that Netanyahu has invited in these extremists who they're more and more right wing. They're more and more fascist. So yeah, some of these top officials are fascist and they are leading Israel in the complete wrong direction. And so there are even schools in Israel. Tina shared a video with me the other day teaching these horrible, disgusting things, just like us in these teaching young children to say, oh, did you see, one of these teachers said, oh, did you see a Muslim kid? And the kids are like, yeah. And the teacher's like, oh, what did you think? And they're like, dirty and disgusting. And the teacher's like, what did you want to do to them? Kill them. And it's like, what? But if you think about it, we have that in the United States too. Think about the deep pockets of our most racist areas, like KKK members and white supremacist areas. What are they teaching their kids? That's the same thing. Don't think the United States is not like this, that we don't have people like that either. Think about the Trump people. We have fascists we have had fascists in our government pretty recently. So we're, I'm not saying that we're, the IDF or whatever. Like, it's just what's happening there is horrible. It needs to be called out. I am so glad for this ceasefire. And I think absolutely everybody needs to call this out, what's happening, no matter who they are. Everybody needs to see that what the state of Israel has been doing to Palestinians is wrong. And my hope is that even when this is over, when this ceasefire, hopefully it goes through, everything goes fine in 2 hours and 15 minutes now. Hopefully everything happens, everything stops. But I hope that it stays in the news. I hope that what's going on in Gaza is put at the top of people's minds now, because this is a daily thing. They don't have food and water and infrastructure. There are diseases in the water because they don't have clean water, because the guards don't allow the materials through that they need to rebuild the infrastructure for the water. And their rations for food are horrific. It's not enough to survive and be healthy. Then now they've murdered the doctors that they need, and they've taken away the COVID clinic that they need. And now they've taken away the ability for the Associated Press and Al Jazeera to readily report on what's going on in Gaza. Oh, I wonder why that is. And they've taken away a ton of their equipment by bombing it. And now there are roads that are devastated. There are even more homes that are devastated. And, you think they're going to allow the materials through to rebuild readily? No. It's going to be awful. And there are so many people who are dead. There's so many children who are dead. A lot of the children who died were in trauma therapy in Gaza because it's traumatic. And now their friends are all going to be in trauma therapy, and it's going to be cyclical trauma. And I don't understand, for those people who, those who are extremists, I do not understand how those who seek to not be oppressed can oppress others. I don't understand. I cannot wrap my mind around it. I will never understand the part of human nature that seeks to oppress others because they're different. I will never understand it. It drives me insane that this happens. So, okay, well, here's an update. So BBC is live updating this page. Truce will be short-lived, former envoy. A former U.S. Middle East envoy has warned that no ceasefire can last as long as Hamas, the militant group which controls Gaza, has rockets. Dennis Ross, who served in the role under President Bill Clinton, has told the Jerusalem Post that any deal would be a short-term calm. He called on the international community to link humanitarian aid to the group's demilitarization. By the way, the Jerusalem Post is complete propaganda. So I would take that like a complete with a huge grain of salt. So what they're saying right there is like, oh, the problem here is Hamas, and Gaza, not Israel, not the IDF. The problem here is not the Israeli military. The problem here is Hamas. Hamas is the problem. So keeping that in mind, I'm going to click on the Jerusalem Post, but you have to keep in mind 100% that the Jerusalem Post is 100% propaganda. Okay, promise me that. You have to keep that in mind if I click on this. All right, all right. All right, let's take a look. Let's take a look. Ay, ay, ay. So what he's saying, what this guy is saying, he urged the international community to link humanitarian aid to Hamas demilitarization. So, of course, he is not saying to link aid to Israel to stop being murdering Palestinians, which is what needs to happen. Like, hey, Israel, stop, keeping Palestinians in an open air prison. Stop murdering Palestinian babies, or we won't give you for almost $4 billion a year from the United States. He's saying, let's focus on linking humanitarian aid to demilitarizing Hamas because they're the issue here. Like, I'm not saying that Hamas is wonderful and like let's put halos on Hamas. Of course, I'm not saying that. I'm not deifying Hamas, but I'm saying that the problem is Netanyahu and the IDF and them murdering Palestinian babies and innocents and extremism. That's what I'm saying. So the thing here that needs to happen is the United States needs to link any aid that we give to Israel to them not murdering Palestinian innocents. And we need to stop making weapons deals with them while they're murdering Palestinian babies. It's really not that hard. And Mr. Amtrak Joe, he of such big heart, according to neoliberals, needs to adhere to that. Of course, he never will. Continuing on, and even then, he said, a mechanism would be needed to ensure that humanitarian assistance to Gaza was not diverted to Hamas for the reconstruction of its rocket arsenal. Again, the rocket arsenal that Hamas has, yes, they have rockets. Yes, they have weapons. But can you imagine what would happen if they did not have weapons? Can you imagine? It wouldn't be good. It wouldn't be good. Because if Palestinians start to throw rocks and then the IDF just starts to murder everybody. And by the way, don't forget that Israel is responsible partially, if not more than partially, for the creation of Hamas because they're and this is verified. This is not conspiracy. Responsible for the creation of Hamas because they're a very, very great scapegoat. They're great for Israel's politics, the state of Israel, the extremist part of Israel, the IDF. Look it up. The question is, can Hamas be sufficiently on the defensive to give up its rockets? Ross said. Yeah, no, they're not going to give up its rockets because Israel's murdering them all. Like, Israel's murdering all of the people in Gaza. Like, no, why would they give up the protection? Like, no matter how bad you think Hamas is, the people in Gaza don't want to give up what they feel is protective. Of course not. That can only happen if there is an offer for substantive reconstruction assistance to Gaza, Ross said. Ross said he believed that the Abraham Accords that allowed for normalized ties between Israel and the Arab world could be used to help preserve the option for a two-state solution until such time as a negotiated settlement is possible. I'm at this point convinced that these people like this are simply saying two-state solution as a not that they ever want to do it or will do it, but because it like kicks the can down the road so that they never have to do anything, that they can just let, so they can just keep letting Netanyahu do whatever he wants to do. So Haaretz is a bit more on the ball. So let's take a look at that. But I think Tina's here. Here we go. Tina! All right, Tina, give the people your thoughts before I keep ranting.
I did want to make a comment about something you said in regards to Hamas. Yes, this is true. There was a part of the WikiLeaks dump. I think it was 2007. Had I known you were going to talk about this, I actually would have produced the WikiLeaks for you. But basically the conversation, let me paraphrase, was that it would be to their benefit if Hamas did become the predominant governing body instead of Arafat, because they could then tie every person in Gaza to Hamas by saying they're all terrorists. That sort of gives them carte blanche to carry on with whatever things they want to do there. So it would give them cover for calling everybody a terrorist and getting away with much more than what they were doing currently. They saw it as beneficial. So, and I think there's also an old video of Ron Paul, of all people, going around where he was talking about this on the Senate floor, this very thing. And it's verifiably true. And when you have somebody that's like anti-war, like Ron Paul talking about it, obviously he's on the right, he's a libertarian. But that doesn't mean that a broken clock isn't right twice a day. So yeah, you're not wrong on that.
Yeah.
It did serve a purpose.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. What do you think? So I was saying that the reporting from the BBC is that this was Egypt's idea and that they're agreeing to it. But I think there has to be something else. I don't think Egypt's just like, oh, hey, you guys should just be peaceful and have a ceasefire. And Netanyahu's like, okay, cool. I think there has to be money behind it or something.
Possibly. But, we have to remember that Egypt has very much had a strained relationship with Gaza from the get-go. So Egypt has not been helpful. They have not been. They've sided with Israel on more than one occasion in this situation. So I didn't see which BBC article you're talking about, though. So I really sort of need to look at it before.
I just put it in the Wakelet. I can send it again. But it's
okay. Let me pull that up.
Okay. Yeah. So I just find it, motivation wise, I feel like there has to be something behind the scenes that we don't know yet, that the reporting maybe hasn't caught up yet with what's really going on. Maybe there's money,
it's intentionally dishonest.
Yeah, it could possibly, intentionally dishonest. That there's something happening. So, I don't know. I just find it strange. Or not strange, but I find it surprising that this happened suddenly, and that they're saying that it was just simply Egypt's idea, and that they're just agreeing to it. And
this is regards to the ceasefire. I'm pulling up.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, sorry. Just try to.
No, sure. I know. I sprung this on you. Yeah, that's the thing. Tina and I had a completely different show planned, and then this news broke. So yeah. It was it's good. Okay. It's a good surprise.
It's a good surprise.
Definitely unexpected for today, at least. I thought that this would keep happening for oops, this wants me to.
Well, yeah, I think 24. I think we almost have to go back and talk about 2014 for a second. And I'm certain that a lot of folks are unaware what I'm referencing there. So let me explain that a little bit. 2014 was a really large excursion into Gaza, where Israel was carpet bombing Gaza nonstop for days and days and days. And it pretty much was supported by everybody. You had liberals in the United States of America, cheerleading it on. And Great Britain, everywhere. Like, there was really no real opposition like there is today. There's a much more robust opposition to this continuing. And I think the reason for that is because 2014 was so devastating. This was the first time we saw in real time on Twitter, video coming out of Gaza of, children just being, killed. And it was very compelling. You had Norway doing some reporting on it which was at the time considered a brave thing to do because people weren't really speaking out against it. So I think 2014 is important because it changed a lot of people's opinion on what was really happening there. And in particular, it changed a lot of people's opinion that were Jewish in the United States, especially the young generation. They saw what was happening and they didn't want to be associated with it. So you started to see more robust conversation coming out of that, some pushback, less fear of being silenced, because fear of being silenced was a real thing, especially within the Jewish community. You're not allowed to really argue or, criticize Zionism. That makes you a capo or a self-hater, right? So that was sort of the dialogue that was going on at that time. And now, 2021, I'm seeing a very different set of feelings out there. You see a lot of pushback coming from within the Jewish community in the United States, where they don't want to see this continuing. And which I think was necessary, but the environment is absolutely different. I think 2014 was key to that. I think Israel went way too far in 2014. They were too brutal in what they did. And one of the things I was telling Jen earlier, and I'll share this with the audience, one of the things that the terminology that they used was mowing the lawn. Ugh. This was an actual thing that it's gross, right? I remember when I heard that, and I was just stunned that somebody could be so craven in the way they would describe killing a lot of people. Well, we're just maintaining the landscape here, right? The natives are getting restless, sort of a mentality that was based in. And it's a very insular thing, right? Somebody says these things out loud and they don't realize how it comes across. They don't realize that some people might hear that and be like, my God, what did you just say? Right.
Right.
Because that's the environment that you're in, and it becomes very insular and very normalized. So I think things have changed considerably. I think it's good that we have a ceasefire on the table. It needs to happen. I don't think it's going to correct the problem. I don't think it goes far enough. We can have that discussion, of course.
Yeah.
But it is a step towards having real change in the region, and that needs to happen.
Yeah. Yeah, I wanted to take a look. So I was telling them before you came on, I was reading out of the Jerusalem Post, this ridiculous thing. I warned them, like, this is propaganda. You guys have to promise me to not believe it. Because
wait, I taught you a new word, hospora.
Hospora, right. Well, so what I was saying, Dennis Ross, who was saying that what people need to do in order to prevent this happening again, or in order to keep the ceasefire, is that people need to link humanitarian aid to demilitarizing Hamas. So I was saying, that's an absurd statement.
No. I literally, so I forgot what publication we're talking about. So I absolutely thought you were going to say link humanitarian aid to the money we give to Israel. Like, I thought that's where this was headed.
No. Well,
I mean,
wow. Yeah. So he's saying, like, the problem is obviously is like Hamas, and so we need to demilitarize Hamas. It's like, obviously that's ridiculous. We need to focus on not giving Israel $4 billion a year, so they can just murder Palestinians. Like, we need to link not giving Israel money to do that. So
you see, that's where I thought you were naturally going to go, because that's what makes sense.
Exactly.
But again, this is an environment that's so insular. It's just remarkable that once you've crossed over on the outside of that environment, you sort of look in on it. You're like, they don't hear how that sounds. They don't see the problem, right?
Yeah.
And the only way you're really going to get peace in the region is if you deal with the root cause. The root cause is that it's a military occupying force. The Palestinians that have been pushed into Gaza, that have been, we talked about it with Ronnie Barkin. They've been there since 1948. We're talking third, fourth generations living in Gaza. They cannot leave.
Yeah.
They are confined by both the land and the sea in this very small bit of land, and have been given no right to return to their homes that were taken from them. And then, to make it worse, they're still taking homes on the other side. So now we're in Jerusalem and the Golan Heights, which is occupied Syria. So the settlements are expanding.
Yeah.
And which is why when I see people say 2-state solution, I'm like, that's just not even a thing.
Yeah,
It's
that's
not
what
a
this
thing.
guy is saying too. He's pushing the two-state solution, and I'm saying, well, now I think that they're only saying that to kick the can down the road. They don't,
They
of
know
course,
it's not a thing. They
believe
know
that
it's not a
that's
thing.
going to happen.
It's
Yeah,
not going to happen. It was never going to happen, because there was a chance for that to happen when Arafat was running the Palestinian side of things. The reason it didn't happen was Israel, although they will tell you the opposite is true. Again, Hospira. But that ship sailed. Now you have a situation where you have settlements absolutely in every part of the region. There's no real autonomous Palestinian area at this point, or there's little tiny pockets of it in the occupied West Bank, right? And dismantling that, how is that going to happen? And what do you do? Like Ronnie was talking. What do you do about the Palestinians that are in the diaspora? What do you do about the Palestinians that are Israeli citizens now but still don't have equality under the law? So really, the only thing that needs to happen here is that Israel needs to grow up and become an actual democracy. And that shouldn't be like this crazy controversial thought or statement, but that is a very threatening statement to a lot of folks. We've talked about this because of the weaponization of anti-Semitism. Anti-Semitism is real. We experienced it this morning on our Status Coup Twitter.
yes.
Why is it? Yeah, I know. It's very upsetting because it's like, why is it that people can't see both of these things being true at the same time?
Yeah.
If you're truly going to reside in a leftist space, understand that anti-Semitism is real. It's harmful. It's hateful. It should not be accepted at all. Like, I don't even know why I have to say this.
I'll pull that up in a little bit so people know what we're talking about. Just to give a kind of an overview, this morning I posted Mark Ruffalo had tweeted an example of anti-Semitism based on this, which is, by the way, something that is a goal, as Tina has pointed out, of certain Zionists, of conflating Zionism to anti-Semitism. And so I posted, anti-Semitism is never okay. Not a controversial statement, right? Especially among progressives, right? No, it was. I got slammed on Twitter while I was tweeting under the Status Coup account. I was so furious. I was so furious, furious, so mad. So I'll show you guys that stuff. I was disgusted. Tina was disgusted. I cannot believe the stuff that people were saying. Like, the fact that I said anti-Semitism is never okay, people were like, but look at what's happening to Palestine. It's like, are you freaks kidding me? What does that have to do with it?
No, but here's the thing.
Look at what we're reporting.
Yeah, both things are wrong. Can we just have that conversation?
Exactly.
Maybe there's no mutual exclusivity here, and but the thing that is really upsetting, though, then this is what happens in the Hospira area, right? So then, now that you've said, okay, so I'm going to criticize Zionism, I'm going to criticize what's going on in Gaza. It's bad. It's not good. I don't like it. And then so some anti-Semitic person comes along and throws some, super hateful stuff at you, whatever. So then over here, you've got the Zionists coming in and saying, see, I told you, you didn't defend Zionism. And now the anti-Semitic person's, yelling at you and putting you down and hating on you. And you're just in there going like, yo, both sides are wrong here. You're wrong for being anti-Semitic. And you're also, putting forth a racist ideology as well. So they're both weaponizing this stuff for their own purposes.
Yeah.
And it's very detrimental.
Yeah, absolutely.
But what you said was what should have been welcomed into any leftist circle.
Of course, at any time, that statement should be completely fine. Completely fine. I'll show you this other site after this too, guys. Hearts. Okay. So this is Hearts, which if you watched with Roddy Barkin, he's not a fan of Hearts, but it is definitely more truthful, let's say, than
it's definitely truthful. So I would, it definitely is. So Ronnie's issue with Hearts isn't that it isn't truthful. Like, he gets all that. His issue is that it's enabling Zionism to continue and not really dealing with the root cause. It's still, so he's saying it's still on that place where it's not willing to call out the real problem, and it's just enabling the real problem by not calling it out, which is, it's a valid opinion. I understand what he's saying there, and he's certainly not alone in that belief.
Right. Yeah.
But I would definitely say it's more truthful. It has more of a commitment to veracity.
Of any of them that are based there, I guess I would say, well, the Gaza paper is good, but this one, based in Israel is good. Okay. Anyway, Israel Hamas agreed to Gaza ceasefire after 11 days of intense fighting. Let's see. Israel and Hamas agreed to an Egyptian-brokered ceasefire on Thursday, following extensive international efforts to end the heaviest flare-up since the 2014 Gaza war. Fighting between Israel and Hamas escalated over the past week and a half, killing at least 232 people, thank goodness. Not only, but thank goodness it was not 2,000. 232 people in the Gaza Strip and 12 in Israel, in one of the deadliest exchanges in years. Israel carried out hundreds of air and several ground strikes in Gaza, while Palestinian militants have fired more than 4,000 rockets at central and southern Israel since last Monday. Okay, well, shout out to Ronnie, because that is propagandistically written.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
they're just more subtle about it. Yeah. See, it's interesting. Once you've like had that stuff pointed out to you, you can't really undo seeing it, right? So yeah. Ronnie is he's an amazing guy doing amazing work in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's definitely moved my opinion on this.
So if you guys aren't familiar, check out Tina and my interview with Ronnie Barkin. It's titled something like Jewish Israeli activist speaks on, apartheid state of Israel or something like that, up on the channel. So the reason we say that this is propagandistically written is because it's saying Israel carried out hundreds of air and several ground strikes. So, but it's saying 4,000 rockets by Palestinian militants. So it's deliberately trying to make it look like the
Palestine was doing more damage, which is ridiculous.
We're doing more damage. Meanwhile, the so-called rockets from Hamas are not equivalent at all to what Israel has in any way, in any capacity at all. Nothing at all alike at all. No. And Israel has their dome, their special dome. Anyway, God. You can't unsee it.
You can't. No, really, you can't, because now it just looks you in the eye, and you're like, "Wow, look how that's framed."
Sheesh.
But again, okay, so let's keep this in mind. The other thing that Ronnie told us, and this was new information for me, I did not know this, is that all of these papers have to run everything through the censor. After this interview, I went and looked into it, and that is absolutely the case. I did not know this was going on. So it sort of explains a lot, doesn't it? So if the IDF censors, or whoever the state censor is looking at this stuff, and they don't want, what they're going to deem as state secrets getting out. Well, we can't say how many rockets Israel fired because that's a state secret.
That's a great point.
I mean, it's really blocking a lot of real journalism from happening. I don't know how, if you're a journalist in Tel Aviv, how you get around that. You know what I mean? You're sort of playing the game you have to play, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really good point. True shame. With a ceasefire,
this is why I always defend the First Amendment. Folks, we're lucky to have it. So defend it at all costs. Sorry, not to interrupt you.
No, you're fine. Yeah, absolutely. With a ceasefire due to take effect on Friday, so now it's like 2 hours and 15 minutes, I think. I'm starting to lose my math on it. With a ceasefire due to take effect on Friday, Israelis and Palestinians counted the cost of 11 days of hostilities that disabled Gaza's sanitation facilities and other infrastructure while disrupting Israel's economy. Oh, I'm sorry that they couldn't have brunch once.
How is this okay?
Literally, oh my God. One of these times, Tina, while you are talking, I'm going to find you guys this video that I find so striking. It is a video of, so you guys know, I'm not much on Snapchat much, but apparently on Snapchat, you can see there's snap maps, I guess, and you can find what people are posting in different parts of the world at the same time or similar times or whatever.
Oh,
so people looked up postings on like in Tel Aviv at the same time as in Gaza, and like they were looking at headlines of like like Israelis posting like, oh, does this restaurant have a bomb shelter? Like, does this brunch place have a bomb shelter? And then so they looked up like what was happening in Tel Aviv and other places, and like what was happening in Gaza, and the differences are striking. It's literally Israelis like having brunch and like playing in the park and like frolicking, and like Gaza like combing through the devastation of their houses and like bleeding on the street. So for the newspapers or the outlets saying conflating the two, it is so striking. I'm gonna find that video because it is incredible. Absolutely. So I just that just came to mind.
It is, you know, and here's the thing, like when they try to frame it in that way, the problem I have with that is that this isn't an actual war. There is a group that's being occupied by somebody else militarily, right? So there's an obligation that you have under international law to the people you occupy. Killing them off isn't one of them, right? But they've treated these folks in a way, you know, like enemy combatants in a war when they're people they're occupying. And I just don't understand how this has been allowed to continue. I mean, you know, we talked about briefly with Ronnie the caloric situation where they were actually looking at limiting the calories, the kind of food that went into Gaza. They had actually calculated the math out with what they decided each one of these individuals would need to survive, and that's all they were going to allow to get through the blockade into as far as food was going. That's ridiculous. How can anybody hear that and think that that's not depraved? I mean, so I mean, this Gaza really is an open air prison, and you know, people like, you know, the March of Return protesters, they're just, you know, protesting. They want to go back to their homes that were taken from them. How can you not understand that desire? If somebody came into your house in the middle of the night and stole your house from you and told you had to leave at gunpoint, how would you feel? Like, how difficult is it for you to have empathy to the situation?
Right. It doesn't, I cannot wrap my mind around the fact that people do not understand that. Like the ability to put yourself in other people's shoes in that way. That it like, yeah, they would be upset, but they don't understand how a Palestinian could be upset by that because, oh, that belongs to Israel. No, that's not how it works. Like imagine I just,
you know, for a long time there was the argument that all the Palestinians just needed to become moved to Jordan. They were actually, you know, they should be in Jordan now. So there's been various arguments through the decades to sort of justify that and try to deal with it. But the reality is the Palestinian people are the Palestinian people. They're not from Saudi Arabia. This is, to me, is like saying, well, like, are all the French people Swedish? Like, how does this make sense? Like, you're assuming that all Arabs are some sort of monolithic group, that these aren't different nationalities within that. And that's kind of absurd, right?
Right.
But that's sort of what you would have to believe in order to understand that, or in order to believe or buy that argument, right?
Yeah. Okay, I found that video.
Be curious to see it.
Okay, I'm going to put it fully up on the screen. Okay, get ready, guys. This is really striking. One second. I don't think
this is inside the Snapchat app.
So this is a video someone took of them going through the Snapchat app. So it's it's them going through the Snapchat app, and then they posted it on TikTok, and then someone posted that on Twitter, and now we're playing it on YouTube. So it's
all very meta.
Yes. I don't think there's sound, so just watch it. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just curious about this. Of course, my niece loves Snapchat. She's a young whippersnapper. So these are just various Snapchats of people in these various areas at that particular time of day, just so I'm understanding?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Just average people living their lives in Israel, yeah. And then it'll go into Gaza
having
later.
bombs rain down on them.
Later it will be Gaza.
عليه مجتمعات عالمية نحو جهات أفضل. أين هو العالم؟ المبنى المقابل لوزارة الصحة يحتوي على جمعيات ومؤسسات.
Wow.
هاي شغلنا كله في يوم واحد. هذه
Wow.
Isn't that striking?
Yeah. Wow. I need to get Snapchat now. That's like a very interesting social experience. Experiment, I should say.
Yeah. So just to reiterate to everyone, the first half took you through Tel Aviv and other spots in Israel. You saw people playing with their puppies and eating brunch and living their daily lives. And then it took you into Gaza and you saw broken buildings and scared children and devastation, books on the ground. So just anyone who tries to tell you that it's the same and the experiences are the same and that this is a conflict on both sides and tries to both sides the experience. No, one side is the oppressor. So
yeah, you can't both. There's nothing to both sides though. Again, because they're being occupied. This is a military occupation. This isn't a war with a sovereign nation. So I always have a problem with the way they frame that sort of argument because it muddies the water in that capacity. And really, this isn't serving anybody. I understand, because believe me, I have Zionist friends. Of course I do. You know, I have these conversations and I just want to try to compel them to understand how this doesn't make anybody safe. You cannot find safety continually at the end of a sword. Eventually, things are going to the ante is going to keep getting higher and higher on both sides until it just is devastating for everybody involved. So watching the escalation, you know, and I'm glad I'm seeing a ceasefire. In 2014, we didn't see a ceasefire. And at that particular junction, there were over 2,000 Palestinians that were killed, many who were children. Oh, I think about around 400 children, which is a completely unacceptable ratio. How is that? If that had happened anywhere else in the world, every nation would be up in arms.
Yeah.
Every nation. So I just, you know, and I guess the other part of this, and I've said this before, I'm going to say it again. The other part that upsets me personally is that I feel a lot of anger when I hear people frame it as we're on the side of the Jewish people, right? When they don't give two shits about the Jewish people. Christian Zionists do not care about the Jewish people.
No.
America does not care about the Jewish people. What they care about are their geopolitical wants and desires. American empire certainly does. They treat Israel like an army base for them, you know, that's in a convenient place. And the Christian Zionists, what do they want? They want the second coming of Christ.
Yeah.
So
freaks,
which is so depraved, because then they're turn around and say like, well, now you have to convert to Christianity. If you don't, you're going to burn in hell. And there's no hell in Judaism as an aside. So, like, what are these?
By the way,
people
guys, I
saying?
say freaks not to make fun of Christians. I say freaks because they want the Jews to die for the rapture. That's the part.
It's a depraved idea, and they will argue harder for the state of Israel than anybody for this reason. And even to the point where they will tell Jewish people like that they're wrong to feel the way they feel. Like, it's like, wow. Okay. So, I mean, anyway, the entire discourse surrounding the situation attracts all kinds of crazy things. It just does. It always has. So it's really important, I think, at some point for the media to step up and do a better job covering the situation, to stop being stenographers either for the IDF or the state government or whoever else. Like, at some point, we need to have an honest conversation about these things. I think we're getting closer to that now, thank God, because that needed to happen. We're not quite there yet, but it is certainly happening. Also, did everybody see Deborah Messing's ridiculous tweet today?
Oh, I saw someone talking about her. What did she say, though? It was a tweet?
It's a whole thread of tweets telling people to get informed on the situation in Israel, Palestine, and it's the most uninformed thread I've ever seen in my life.
Oh, no.
It's so bad that Katie Halper pretty much called her stupid.
Oh, my. Deborah Messing.
Yeah. I mean, my response was like, who had Messing doing, Hospira on their 2021 bingo card? It's just a terrible thread. It's just so ill-informed that you read it and you think, how could she end it saying, like, people, please get informed, learn something? And you're like, wow.
Is this the one? Please take 3 minutes and read.
Yeah, that's part of the thread there. Yeah.
Okay, please take 3 minutes and read through this carousel. There is so much disinformation about Israel being spread, and it is getting people hurt. There are videos.
By you, Deborah. By you.
There are videos from all over the world, including the U.S., of crowds, pro-Palestinian protesters attacking, beating, kicking, using pipes as weapons against Jews. What is she talking about?
I have no idea what she's talking about. If there's a video like that exists, I have not seen it. But let me also say this: if a video like that does exist, that's also really fucking wrong. We can say it's really fucking wrong to beat Jewish people with pipes. That's
of course,
anti-Semitic.
But does that exist?
But that doesn't justify military occupation in another country. I don't know. What she's doing here. I don't know what she's doing here in this thread. But then she goes into this whole cartoon section, which is. And it's a series of cartoons that even you've seen them on Instagram.
Oh no!
That have been produced by a group of fascists that are to the right of Trump. So here we have scroll down.
No,
you'll see them. Yeah,
these are from the Israel account. These are complete propaganda.
They absolutely are, and these are absolutely cartoons that have been produced by a group. And I'm going to say this again: that is fascist and to the right of Trump. I don't know that people quite understand that. It's almost as if they look at Israel and they think that Israel is just full of leftists that agree with them. I don't understand why this happens, but it does happen. And, we've had this conversation where Likud, who is Netanyahu's governing power right now, they are very much a hard right government. And they're not the most right? You have Home Party. You have Kosh, which are the Kahanahists that are now called something else. I don't know what they're calling themselves these days. But this party was so far to the right that they were banned by the state of Israel. But now Netanyahu has let them back into his coalition because he wanted to hold on to power. So again, why is it that somebody that would self-identify themselves as being a liberal or on the left in the United States spread this kind of thing? I mean, does she not realize that this is entirely created by fascists? It's just wild to me.
So she wants all the Palestinians to live in 25 miles in the West Bank.
This is totally true. Okay, so the majority. Let's talk about that for a second. Well, the majority of Israelis believe it just went away small.
Sorry, this one.
That's all right. Whichever one you just had up, because no, this is a different one. It was the one.
This one?
All right, here. Okay, so in the West Bank and Gaza, and you should support it too. What are they talking about? Both of these areas I mean, okay, so the West Bank is full of settlements, and they're expanding the settlements in the West Bank as we speak. How could they say this while expanding the settlements? Hebron, Ramallah, like you can go through the list. They're all full of settlements that are protected by the IDF. None of these areas are sovereign. That's just a wild statement for them to be making, especially now in 2021. I mean, especially given what started this current uprising or rebellion was the expansion of settlements and the evictions in East Jerusalem, right? So this is just incredibly disingenuous crap. All the way through. And so you'll love, if you go down to the very end, I think there's 9 tweets because I did a Tina thing.
Well, this is the end. Okay, so there's one up there. Well, I see you.
So yeah. So tweet number 9 was tweet number 9 was end. Like she wrote end, and then I said tweet. Then I did 11. I did the number 11. There it is, and I'm like reality.
I love that. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
So there it is. End. And there I am. Number 11. Reality.
She's not smart.
No, but why does she continue to do this? This isn't the. What's really interesting to me about Deborah Messing too is the way she hated on Bernie Sanders. More than once, she made anti-Semitic claims about Bernie Sanders. Of
let's
course,
order a cameo from her and make her say good things.
Wait, order a what?
A cameo. She has a cameo link on her account.
Oh, I'm scared. I don't even want.
You order a thing, and then you tell her what to say, and she has to make a video saying it. No, I'm not kidding.
Holy shit! $350 she is charging to tweet something at you?
No, she makes a video of her saying it. You say like, oh, I want you to say happy birthday to like my dad or whatever, but we can say like, oh, make a video saying.
I love. Okay, so I would actually status coup. I would be willing to pay $350 to make her say, "I love Bernie Sanders," and that there's apartheid in Israel.
She would not do it. She'd reject it. Why does she need $350?
I don't know. That's wild. I didn't even know that was a thing.
Amazing.
That's like
Sulamoon says cameo account her career tanked that bad. Okay, anyway, I'm gonna get back to this article.
Sorry. Yeah. Sorry. You know me, I had to take you down a rabbit hole.
I love it. I'm happy you did. Now I know Deborah Messing has a cameo.
Like I didn't even know this was a thing.
Gaza's housing ministry said on Thursday that 16,800 housing units have been damaged. Of those, 1,800 have become unfit for living and 1,000 were destroyed completely. Residents were estimated to be getting 3 to 4 hours of power versus 12 hours before the hostilities. What does that mean? They don't get power whenever they want, I guess? I know.
Oh, we know that. Yes.
I didn't know that.
Okay. So that's something that Ronnie didn't bring. Yes. The electricity is shut off most of the day in Gaza. I think I would have to look it up to verify, but I think it's only on for 4 to 6 hours a day. So no, you do not have access to electricity 24/7 in Gaza. You have not. It's been shut off that access was shut off, I think, after the last go around.
Oh my God.
Yeah, they control it. Look, here's the thing. People need to understand this. Everything in Gaza is controlled by Israel. Everything. The amount of food that comes in, it's under siege. Like when folks say siege, this is what they're talking about. No, you do not have access to electricity 24 hours a day. You can't just turn a line on whenever you feel like it. They don't allow construction materials to come in. I mean, you've seen the devastation.
Yeah.
I mean, after all the bombing that happened in 2014, they still haven't been able to rebuild everything post that. And now it's just going to be worse. They did the desalination plants were not functional, which is why they have a serious water problem. There's very little potable water. None of this is exaggerated, folks. None of this is exaggerated. I don't understand. It really breaks my heart. It breaks my heart that, sorry, I'm having a little moment here. I'm verklempt. It breaks my heart that people see this stuff and they're not moved by it.
Right.
Like,
how
is this acceptable?
I agree. Yeah.
Nobody should be living in any condition like this anywhere in the world.
Again, I say I don't understand how people can know this and not care.
Right. Exactly. It's disturbing. It's
and think
disturbing.
it's okay.
And it could all end tomorrow. I mean, they could choose to end this. They could choose to end this. It doesn't have to be this way. Which is why it's important to talk about it. It's important to be honest about it. It's important to pressure. It's important to pressure Biden at this point because Biden's not seeing the light.
Freaking Biden.
He's sort of starting to, because he's been yelled at by just about everybody, right? But obviously something, this can't continue. Something must change. It should have changed a long time ago, and it's not going to change if Israel is left to its own accord. That's the unfortunate reality, I think, at this point. I mean, because like Ronnie talks about this, how it's he gets shunned all the time by folks in like I saw a broadcast where he was on Israeli news in Tel Aviv, and he was he ended up arguing with the host because they just didn't want to hear what he had to say.
He's so badass. I love him.
It doesn't deter him, which is really quite amazing. I just have massive amount of respect for him for that.
What was that that quote that his friend or colleague or someone tweeted that when we said Twitch wouldn't allow us to broadcast the interview with Ronnie, they said, if you're going to try to shut Ronnie up, you're going to need a bigger boat. That was amazing.
Which I laughed when I saw it because I'm like, this is true.
Oh my. The Hamas media office estimated the bombardments had caused $40 million in damage to factories. Oh, well, it only would take 4 days from payments from the United States to Israel to cover that. $40 million in damage to factories and the Strip's industrial zone and other industrial facilities, in addition to $22 million in damage to the energy sector. Gaza's agricultural ministry estimated around $27 million in damage that included greenhouses, agricultural lands, and poultry farms. Israel's Manufacturers Association said on May 13th that the loss to the economy between May 11th to 13th reached 540 million shekels, $166 million, because the south and center of the country came under intense rocket fire from Gaza. I think it'll be fine. No one cares. No one cares. Egypt will dispatch delegations to Israel, the Gaza Strip, and West Bank to follow up on the ceasefire agreement announced between Israel and Hamas, set to go into effect at 2 a.m. So I've lost track of time. I think it's in about an hour and a half now.
Yeah. What time is it? Yeah.
According to a statement carried by Egyptian media. I still need to know what else happened. I can't just be in Egypt saying, please.
No, it definitely cannot be. I mean, because
you say nice.
If Egypt had intervened a long time ago in a more robust way, we probably would be in a different place at this junction. So
yeah.
I'd be curious to know too. I mean, because the only other exit out of Gaza goes into Egypt, and it's not as if they let the Gazans cross into Egypt. They don't.
Mm-hmm.
Just to give you an example, right? So you've got two exits. You have one going into Israel, one going into Gaza.
Yeah.
Going into Egypt. Sorry, you understood what I meant.
Right. Of course. Let's see if there's any other. Yeah, as we said, guys, like this is all information that's coming in. So. Let's see if the BBC is.
We can do an update on the Ronnie story. So, Ronnie's in the UK now. They're actually trying to stop an arms shipment from going from London. I don't know why I have it in my brain as United Kingdom. That's actually really bad. I've been trying to reframe that because the United Kingdom is like empire.
Oh,
I want to say Britain.
Not saying
or England. Actually, no, I don't want to say Britain. I want to say England.
What do you mean?
Yeah, because so the United Kingdom was British Empire, right? So
yeah.
It wasn't just England. I feel like it's more precise and more better to say England. This is just me and my own brain.
Oh, well, I don't think we can just change the names of things at will.
Well, we're not changing it. It's just England. England was part of the United Kingdom. That was the United Kingdom was their empire, right? That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. I get it.
Maybe Maybe I'm being ridiculous. I'm just saying I was thinking about this very deeply last week and I made this decision. So I'm working on calling it England. So anyway, back to the original story. So
well,
they're in
that
England.
reminds me, just as a quick side note, I don't want to say where, but I was walking around one of our local towns with my 13-year-old the other day. And I was like, isn't it so cool? George Washington used to walk around here. And he's like, oh, yeah, so cool, Mom. Like, he and his friends used to own slaves. Like, oh.
People are making fun of me now in the chat. They'll understand when they get to the end of this, they'll understand what I'm saying. But I'm reading the chat now and they're like, what? And I'm like, okay.
Oh, I just dropped my phone on my foot.
Anyway, so he's trying to stop the arms shipment. They got on the roof and the fire department came because somebody from the is it Elbit? It's Elbit, I think is the name of it.
Yeah, Elbit.
Yeah. Right? So the fire department came and they decided they weren't going to intervene because they're not police. They just made sure that everybody was okay, nobody was injured, and they made a statement that the union stood with them in solidarity. So.
Yeah, they did that action yet, or?
Yeah. It's up on the Twitter. If we want to go, we can show it. There's some photos. There's some photos and things.
Which Twitter though? The
Palestinian Palestine Action. Pal Action. Although he might have retweeted some of it. Pal Action.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Oh, here we go. There's a little video. Fun.
Well, joining us now from London is Huda Amori. She's co-founder of Palestine Action, that network of activists taking direct action to end what they're calling British complicity in Israeli apartheid. Huda, thanks for being with us. I'm curious, can you explain your choice of protest location this week?
Thank you for having me. Well, in Palestine Action, we've been targeting Elbit Systems, which is Israel's largest arms company, who actually have 10 sites here in the UK. They have 5 factories where they're producing components and weapons which are sent to Israel and other places across the world in order to kill innocent people. And we've seen what's been happening in Gaza, and often we can trace it back to complicity on our own shores. These weapon factories are here across the UK. So activists chose to go to Leicester in order to occupy the building and stop the production of these weapons and also halt Israel's arms production. And we see it as mandatory and a moral obligation when weapons are being built here, which Elbit Systems actually market as tested. They market them as battle tested on Palestinian civilians in Gaza so that they can sell these weapons on to other oppressive regimes. They're complicit in violations of international law. They're complicit in war crimes and tragedies that are happening to the people in Palestine. And that is why we take direct action to occupy these factories, to disrupt these factories. And often that implies climbing on top of the roof of these factories, going inside, chaining ourselves to the gates. Pouring red paint is often used to symbolize the bloodshed of the Palestinian people.
Huda, there are meanwhile though a number of weapons.
Wow.
Yeah. Imagine seeing that segment on CNBC or MSNBC.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Al Jazeera. I don't know what Ronnie would say, but their coverage has been, I think, pretty fair coming out of
WWRS.
WWRS. What is that?
What would Ronnie say?
Oh, what would Ronnie say? Yeah. 2 supporters arrested for providing food and water to activists halting Israel's killer drone production in how do you say it? Leicester? How do you say it?
Leicester, I think.
I don't know. She said it. I don't know.
She said it much better than I did.
Wow. So just for providing food and water. Sheesh.
Mm-hmm. So, but it's very interesting that this group is doing this. And really, this is it can be kind of broadened into the entire anti-war activism because these weapons go to other countries too, right? And not just to fight against Palestine. Not to, you know what I'm saying? So It's interesting that they're using this to sort of bring attention to that.
They attacked this woman. Jeez.
Oh, I didn't see this part yet. What
God.
happened?
Peaceful protesters attacked by Elbit's hired security outside Elbit's arms factory in Shenstone. Also, please stand by and watch. Freaking
So it sounds like things are definitely escalating there.
wow. God. Guys, in case you're just joining us, smash the like button if you are on YouTube, follow us and subscribe to us everywhere. And super chats help us a lot. We are trying to purchase new equipment, so do that. And you can also help us out by going to gofundme.com/statuscoup. Lester, thank you, Karis.
Lester, yeah.
Lester. We need to go to England to get some culture.
I'm down for some, ale and fish and chips.
Well, I don't eat fish, but I could
Okay.
go. I would learn to eat fish for that. Yeah, so that's really cool action because no matter where you stand on certain things, there's definitely a spectrum of things. We all definitely agree on not murdering Palestinians, but I think we can all agree that weapons deals and weapons production is not an area. There's not a lot of disagreement there among progressives. So shutting down Israel's arms production is something we can all get behind.
I agree.
So
I agree. I mean, the military-industrial complex is a big driver of all of this, right? War Incorporated. They make money off of all of these things. Proving a sale to the state of Israel, like the military industrial complex here in the United States. They want that sale approved. They're going to make money off of it. And that's why they turn around and donate to all of these politicians' campaigns, right? It's a very vicious cycle that we're in.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and
if that all ended tomorrow, they could not profiteer anymore, right? So
we give weapons to Israel. We give billions to Israel. Israel's a huge
but they turn around and use that and then buy our weapons. They buy weapons from us.
It's like a huge circle of weapons and money and like.
The arms dealers are who are benefiting from all of this.
Explain again their Pegasus and the Khashoggi. I think a lot of people don't realize this.
Oh yeah, so Pegasus. Ronnie mentioned this in passing too, which is why I was like Pegasus. Yeah, so Pegasus it's a software that was developed. It's private security, that is why Khashoggi was killed, is because of Pegasus. It was developed by Israel. They sold it to the Saudi Arabia government. I have no doubt they've sold it to private corporations. I have no doubt they've sold it to other foreign governments. But it's a very invasive software that allows them to spy into other people's phones, like through links. So in the Khashoggi story, an activist that he was communicating with got a text message, or he did, I'm not sure. One of them got a text message that was like a DHL delivery sort of a thing. But when they clicked on it, it let Pegasus in, and that allowed it to infiltrate into all of the phones. So they could now spy and see the messages.
Clicked that, or the activist clicked the DHL?
I can't recall. Okay. So we should look that up before I say something wrong, but it's one or the other. But nonetheless, it was able to infiltrate the entire ring of activists that were communicating in their text messages, and they were able to read and see and spy. And so this is a very invasive kind of software. And, Israel sold it to Saudi Arabia. And I have no doubt that there are private corporations that probably have use of this, which is why I'm also very paranoid about having my two phones, as you know.
Yeah.
One for live streaming photos, apps, one for communicating.
Right. Which is smart. It's really smart.
And get rid of Android if you have Android.
Yeah. Well, iPhone has been doing a lot.
I don't love Apple. Don't get me wrong. I don't love Apple, but they are definitely more secure. They
They
definitely don't have a business model based on, their business model isn't based on invading your privacy the way Google's is.
Yeah.
That's just,
There is some more news that's come in via the BBC. Right-wing Israeli politicians criticize ceasefire. Imagine that. Several Israeli politicians have denounced the ceasefire. Speaking before, maybe I
had too much coffee before I got on.
you gotta, it's not a surprise. It's not a shock. Let's say that. No. Speaking before the cabinet decision, the leader of the New Hope Party, Gideon, how would you say that? said it would seriously harm Israeli deference against Hamas and other militant groups. The cessation of Israeli military activity without imposing any restrictions preventing the arming and strengthening of Hamas, and without the return of the soldiers and civilians held in Gaza, will be a political failure, the price of which will be paid with interest in the future, he said, according to the Times of Israel. Let's not forget that this all started with Israel trying to steal people's houses and with Palestinians protesting and like throwing some rocks. So this is not the issue here. This is deflection. Avigdor Lieberman, chairman of the right-wing Israel...
Who, by the way, is a completely, incredibly racist jackass. Carry on with the article and we'll come back to him.
Okay, yeah. I want to hear more about him because I'm not familiar. Described it as another failure of Netanyahu. Okay, so this guy doesn't even like Netanyahu. That's...
this guy is... Remember how I keep saying to you that Likud is not the most right-wing in the country? I'm very serious about this.
That's scary.
Some people think Netanyahu's liberal. You know what I'm saying? It is scary. I mean, it's very much shifted into a fascist, headed there, at least quickly, if not there now.
Jeez. The one who nurtured Hamas and enabled it to get to where it is today is Netanyahu. Jesus. Wow. Bezalel Smotrich, the leader of the hard-right religious Zionism party, called on Netanyahu not to capitulate on moves to evict several Palestinian families from the Sheikh Jarrah neighborhood of East Jerusalem.
Capitulate. Are you serious?
Fighting began in Gaza after weeks of rising Israeli-Palestinian tension in occupied East Jerusalem that culminated in clashes at a holy site revered by both Muslims and Jews. Hamas began firing rockets after warning Israel to withdraw from the site, triggering retaliatory airstrikes. All right, so tell us more about this gentleman
guy. So I'm looking right now. There's a couple of videos. I wonder if we can pull them up. It's bad when everybody else is calling him a racist, right? So he was there. So if you type in, I want to pull up a video. How do I get you to pull up a video?
You can share your screen too.
I can. How do I do that?
Do you see the plus sign share on the StreamYard area at the bottom?
Oh yeah, that's over there on the other computer.
Oh, so you're not near. Okay, just text it to me, or I can just type in whatever.
Okay, yeah. So go into the search. If you type in his name, racist remarks.
The Lieberman one, or Smut.
Yeah, it's Avigdor. It's Avigdor.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And then what?
So, let's see. Which ones? Let me pick a really good one. There's several here. So there's an AP one.
A video or an article?
Do you see it? Yeah. Okay. Actually, we could play a bunch of these, but the guy is like, he's his own worst enemy. And he doesn't even hear himself being racist usually when he's being. So read the one that says Lieberman warns concessions bring war, not peace.
One second, friends.
Sorry, guys. I just think we need to talk about this guy for a hot second because he's been involved in government for a long time.
Hold on, my friends. I have it.
And there's another great one from the Jerusalem Post.
מי שחושב שבאמצעות הוויתורים, וזה שהוא כל יום יגיד אני מוכן לוותר.
Is that English?
Well, they don't have subtitles. All right, if you go to the Jerusalem Post when it has subtitles.
Okay.
I assumed this one would too. How could the AP not have subtitles?
Yeah.
So he was the defense minister back in 2014, which was the last massive excursion where they were bombing Gaza. That was the one where over 2,000 Palestinians were killed. It was very bloody.
Well, this one?
Oh, you're using Google and not the.
Well, I can't because I'm on a StreamYard.
That's right. You can't.
So which?
Oh, it might be embedded in there. You know what? It might be embedded in there. Or the other thing we can do is I can put together some videos of Lieberman at his best worst, and we can show them tomorrow. Just
That's
because I feel like let me make a note, because I do think people should understand, because this guy's a really good example. If you really want to understand the mentality within the state of Israel, within these right-wing parties, he's the perfect person to really take an examination of, because he often says stuff that's incredibly offensive and he just doesn't see that it's offensive.
Yeah.
Because it's just so insular.
It's just in his, it's in his.
It's an insular thing. Like if I say, the Palestinians are there, things like this. This is sort of a paraphrase of what he was saying back in 2014. The Palestinians are coming towards the security fence. It's not our fault if we shoot them. Why do they keep coming towards the security fence? Hamas wants them to die. Hamas wants us to kill them. Hamas wants us to genocide them. This is the kind of stuff he would say.
Was it you who sent me the one thing that said someone asked a spokesperson from Israel why they were killing those who came too close to the fence instead of arresting them? And she said, because they don't have enough room in the jails.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah.
What? Like, that is sick.
It is sick and twisted. Yeah. So, so you get what I'm saying, but I'll pull up some videos of this guy so everybody can hear.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Okay. So we have, thank you so much for the super chat, GD Destiny, $10. Thank you for the coverage. Can you give us an update on the 10-year-old girl, Nadine, who made the viral video, "I'm just a kid"? How can we help her? That is a great question. I'm going to find that video and play it again for people. I actually do not have an update on her, but you and I are on the same wavelength, because I am going to email Middle East Eye, who took that video of her, and I'm going to ask them for an update. I actually got permission from them for us to use that video in our coverage, and they responded. They were great, and they said, yeah, we want that video to go as, to be as widely seen as possible. So they gave us permission to use that. And I think everybody needs to see that video. And it's so important. And I truly think it can change hearts and minds. Just such a stunning, important, striking video, historic. I hope she's well. I think about her often, every day. So I'm going to find that and play that for everybody. And I promise, try to get an update on her for sure. Thank you so much, Elvis Cat, $4.99 in the super chat. Thank you, Jen, Tina, and Team Status Coup. Thank you. These super chats help so much. We are trying to get new equipment. We have Colin, who is working full-time-ish hours for us now. Yay. And I'm so grateful, because Colin's amazing. You guys hopefully have seen his, YouTube is suppressing us, of course, but he did a great interview with Marvin Scott III's sister, Lachey Batts. And she really doesn't give interviews to media, but because we're Status Coup and we care and we have hearts, and we have been covering Marvin's story where other national media has not, Colin was able to get that interview. He did a great job. Colin's not a journalist, but he crushed that interview. He has an amazing heart, and he really put her at ease, and he asked, questions human to human, just conversationally. He did a fantastic job. Yeah. He's a natural. So please check that out for sure. And my point in saying that is we need new equipment. We need a second live view because he lives in Texas and we want to be able to send him on a different coast where obviously like Jordan and I are on the East Coast, Tina's in LA, Colin's in Texas. So we want to be in more places. So please help us out with super chats and GoFundMe.com/status coup. And I'm going to find that the 10-year-old girl and show you guys that for sure. And let's see if there are any more updates on this ceasefire.
There's one more super chat.
Oh, did I miss one?
You missed one, yeah. And actually, she's making an interesting point. Yesterday, another person in chat gave me a great website for information. Pro-Palestine information, nkusa.org. Learned a lot. So NKUSA, that's the Natura Carta. That is a group of ultra-Orthodox Jewish folks. I did not know they had a USA website. There's a group that does activism in England. See what I did there? England. The Natura Carta, they believe, they believe the Torah teaches that that the state of Israel is a defiance to God because God doesn't believe. The Torah teaches that God doesn't think that the Jews should have a homeland. That just flies in the face of what Judaism teaches. So that's sort of the basis from where they're coming from. But they are very, very adamantly opposed to Zionism. Always have been. They think it's an affront to Judaism. Again, like I think they're a great source if you want to understand the diversity of thought that exists within the Jewish community on Israel, because Americans are generally fed a diet of Zionism only, and it's certainly not a monolithic group that only thinks this one way. So, and in fact, I think if you have an interest in this group, I believe that Vice did one of their short documentaries on them. So if you Google Natura Carta, you should be able to maybe find that. But it is a very interesting microcosm, and they have very interesting viewpoints, and they're happy to discuss them with folks outside of the community. So
that's interesting. I would like to try to do an interview with them. Thank you, Misanthropic and Out of Coffee. That's fascinating. So I pulled up their website here.
Oh, good. Yeah. Okay. Let's take a look at that. There's also another group out of New York called True Torah Jews that have very similar viewpoints. I believe they might have a website as well. Okay. But in fact, I would go ahead and play one of these videos and see what the rabbi says, because it's definitely not something folks have heard before.
Yeah, let me zoom in here and play this. So this was posted 8 hours ago. Emergency March for Palestine on May 11th. In New York City, Rabbi David Feldman speaking with Arabic subtitles. I don't know how to make it bigger.
Especially because I'm Jewish. It's not just because I'm human. I stand up and condemn all what Israel is doing, not just now, but doing already for decades. It's because I'm Jewish. I condemn all what's being done supposedly in my name and supposedly in the name of my religion. The Jewish religion is being misused, sadly and embarrassingly, to justify all these crimes that are being committed against the Palestinian people.
Very cool.
Yeah, and so of course now there's arguments. A lot of the
destek için gelen Yahudiler, İsrailler, biz gerçeğin
that's great.
ateş açtığını, hata yaptığını, yanlış yaptığını biliyoruz diyorlar.
That's on the Bay.
Desteğe gelmişler. Geçen hafta da gelmişlerdi, yine gelmişler.
Wow, so that one said the Zionists ignited the fire.
Yeah, no, they're extremely anti-Zionist, and you'll see sometimes videos, arguments where more mainstream synagogues, like they'll fight with each other, right? Because they get very angry. They call the Natura Carta very extremist. They blame their ultra orthodox ways on why they're anti-Zionist, and that's bad. It's extremist religion. All extremist religion is bad. So, there is definitely an argument to be had inside the community against these two groups fighting with each other. So, but it's an interesting viewpoint if you want to understand.
Yeah. Man, I want to reach out and try to get an interview. That's really, really, really interesting.
I would love to interview these guys. I've always wanted to interview them, actually. I'm super fascinated by some of their viewpoints, because I do think a lot of what they say is definitely more spot on to Judaism than people want to give credit for. And like, full disclosure, I'm an atheist. But if you're going to abide by, the Torah, the teachings, or if you're Christian, you're going to abide by the Bible, right? I mean, at least be true to what is being taught.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I was raised in a crazy conservative Christian household, like one of the ones that thinks the rapture is going to happen, and the ones that want the Jews to have to be in Israel to go to hell so that they can go to heaven. That kind.
Yeah, it's really wild stuff.
But it's, I don't know. I don't understand that kind of thinking. And if you really read the Bible, Jesus is much more like another Jewish carpenter named Bernie Sanders. Just kidding. Well, but seriously, much more like a socialist, like welcoming of
which is the more traditional viewpoint in the community. The Bund, the socialism that came out of the early 19th century. There was a very rich tradition of Jewish socialism. That's not the sort of hard right fascist that we see now happening. But, and somebody's pointing out in the chat that BB is an atheist. Yes, most Zionists are atheists. They just use religion to justify what they're doing, which is another thing that makes, the Orthodox folks angry, right? They see that for what it is. They see that their religion's being weaponized by a group that doesn't even believe in God. So it's very upsetting to them. Anyway, it would be a very interesting interview. I would encourage that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would watch that. I would love it. Like, it'd be great.
I want to play the video that we were talking about with the 10-year-old Palestinian girl, because I think it is so, so, so important. You can see now the video has 13.4 million views, so it really has gone viral. She's so inspiring. I really, we talk about, I don't know at this point, it doesn't matter what I think about God or whatever, like, it doesn't matter, but I find this inspiring, like spiritually, whatever that means. I don't even know what that means anymore, but I feel like this video has a purpose, and that is like meant to be seen by people truly. And I think that this is meant to be.
Because it's so authentic. I mean, it's obviously not staged. She's just expressing her frustration at what's happening to her, and it's just so authentic that makes it real. It really kind of makes everything real for you when you see it.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's so important. So this was captured by Middle East Eye, who again was so kind in allowing us to use this video. So the title or the tweet, I don't know what to do. A 10-year-old Palestinian girl breaks down while talking to Middle East Eye after Israeli airstrikes destroyed her neighbor's house, killing 8 children and 2 women. Imagine being a 10-year-old girl and the 8 children who live next to you are dead.
Oh my God. Wow.
I'm always sick. I'm always, I don't know. I can't do anything. You see all of this. What do you expect me to do? Fix it? I'm only 10. I can't even do anything this more. I just want to be a doctor or anything to help my people. I can't. I'm just a kid. I don't even know what to do. I get scared, but not really that much. I do anything for my people, but I don't know what to do. I'm just 10. I'm just 10. this when I see it, I literally cry every day, saying to myself, why do we deserve this? What did we do to this? My family said they just hate us. They just don't like us because we are Muslims. Why does Muslims act for you like that? You see all of the kids around me? They're just kids. Why wouldn't you just send a missile to them and kill them? It's not fair. It's not fair.
God, every time I see that I cry, and I've probably watched it 20 times by now. Oh my God. I don't know. How could people not see that? How could people not be touched by that? I don't know. Yeah. God. So that if you hadn't seen that before, I urge you to share that with those who haven't seen that. You know, it's been seen by millions, but it needs to be seen by millions more. There are a hell of a lot of people in this world. So keep it going. Keep it going. People are waking up, but a lot more people need to be woken up. There are some people who've been holding on to beliefs that they've had their whole lives, and maybe they're slowly holding on to things that they know that they should let go of, and they haven't yet.
Yeah.
And
yeah, it's a process.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I'm happy. I can tell you, I was a Zionist 15 years ago because I was raised to believe that Zionism was good. At some point, then you start to see things and you question that, right? There's this whole process that you go through to get there, right? It's sort of like losing your religion, and I think that is happening for a lot of folks. For the obvious reasons, but you know, I've come from a place of 100% supporting Zionism to 100% not supporting Zionism, because I see very clearly now that it's not a tenable thing. It, you know, and a lot of the stuff that you're raised believing, you don't know the truth, right? Like, I didn't understand how the state was created by people having their houses stolen. I was always told that these folks left willingly, and that, you know, they're just Jordanians, or they just go to another, and it's all fine and peachy keen, right? Well, no, that's not reality, right? So once you learn that that's not reality, you can't undo that learning. You can't unsee what you see, and that it's painful. You know, that's a painful process that you go through, and that's true of anybody that's sort of, you know, like for you, if you grew up in this really hard right Christian house, like you had to go through a process, right, of losing your religion per se to get where you are today. You know, it's part of human growth, right?
As you probably.
Right.
But this is also why, let's be clear, this is also why the propaganda machine has been so closely guarded. They know that. They know that the reality of the situation on the ground doesn't help them, right? The photos, the video. If enough people see what's really happening, the actual facts of military occupation, that there are very much real victims there, that sort of destroys the entire Haspara narrative, and then people don't support it anymore, right? But then my thing is this, well, then what? Then my thing is this, is like, question why that is. How did this happen in the first place? How was this ever turned into a political movement that made sense? You know, how was that able to happen all those years ago? You know, like, it wasn't there. There were people that didn't support it. That was actually the majority, right, inside the Jewish community. But I think a lot of the Zionism that's being pushed has come from non-Jews. Like, I think it's a geopolitical desire, because it's a convenient thing, right? We now have a base in the Middle East that is, you know, going to help us with our empire, sort of a thing. Anyway, it's all very unfortunate that this is the place we're at, but I do think that things can change for the better, and I do think that part of that happening is more folks understanding the situation and wanting to change the narrative, wanting to change the story of what's happening right now.
Absolutely. So I just found that Biden is going to speak in a few minutes. So I'm
you should play that.
Yeah, I'm opening up C-SPAN. I've opened up C-SPAN, so it's not happened yet, but we will bring
as
that.
You do that, I'm going to address something. Somebody saying in the chat, as a Zionist, Biden says, you don't have to be Jewish to be Zionist. Of course. Like, right. I would say, and in fact, the biggest group of Zionists that are not Jewish are white supremacists. I don't think that's a controversial statement. And does that sound superficially counterintuitive? It should be, yes. But the reality is that is the case, right? And we can get into all of the psychological reasons as to why that is the case, but it is true. So I think Zionism has definitely been pushed by a whole host of folks that don't have a vested interest in the Jewish people.
Right.
That's what I'm trying to get at.
100%. 100%. And one of the things that you've, a lot of this has been eye-opening and awakening for me in these past 11 days. And one of the kind of revelations that you've helped me with is that Zionism has really been used in many ways to push anti-Semitism.
Oh, hell yeah.
Which I think a lot of people don't realize.
Yeah, so that is absolutely true.
If you in any way come across as not supporting, the actions of the IDF, for example, then you can then be labeled as anti-Semitic. And if you don't agree 100% with what Israel is doing, then you can be labeled as anti-Semitic. And so it is really weaponized, and people are afraid to speak out, including Jewish people.
That's right. You get called a self-hater or a capo. Yeah, this is definitely true. They've weaponized it, but the unintended consequence of that is it actually does increase real anti-Semitism in the world, I think.
Right.
There's complex part of the conversation, then there's the complex part of the conversation, This is the complex part.
Right. Well, you have Jewish heritage, and you've been called all sorts of things. For, standing up for the rights of other humans.
Absolutely.
And it's, I think you've also mentioned you've had family murdered in the Holocaust, yes? Or lost in the Holocaust?
Yeah. My great-grandpa.
That is hurtful, I'm certain. And I don't know. I think it's just a real, I don't know.
It's hurtful because there really is there's really very serious anti-Semitism in the world. For me, because my last name is Jewish, right? So for me, it doesn't matter that if it's on my father's side, like in the Jewish tradition, the mother is what you would look to as if that's your mother's ethnically Jewish, then you're Jewish. So my grandfather married a shiksa. So I'm a mix, but, does it matter to the white supremacists whether that's true or not? No, of course not. They just see my last name and I get I've had a lot of anti-Semitic hate thrown at me. So so my niece and nephew recently experienced some anti-Semitism because of their last name. So it's frustrating because if you speak out against Zionism, you get the Zionists get really angry with you, right? And then the anti-Semitic assholes come along and they say horrible things to you and they threaten you, whatever. And then the Zionist person says to you, well, see, why aren't you supporting us? That's what we're talking about. And you're just like, stop, make it stop. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I don't, there's obviously not an easy answer for anybody. And it's going back to what we were talking about, as we're waiting for Biden. Again, if you guys didn't hear, Joe Biden's set to speak on this ceasefire very, very soon. But I'll show you while we're waiting what happened this morning.
Yeah.
Which is crazy to me, that I posted on the Status Coup account. Let me zoom in. What I thought would be an innocuous message. Clearly, we are not new to posting about anti-Semitism.
Right.
We are as status coup, we call out, instances of oppression. We call out things that are wrong all the time. That's what we do. We don't like people being oppressed. We don't like things that are we we don't like things that are injustices. We don't like things that are wrong. Like, we simply don't, and we call it out fearlessly. We don't back down from it. So I simply posted, anti-Semitism is never okay. We can all agree with that, right? That seems fine. Yeah. Okay. Everyone's good on that. Yeah. Okay. So, no, everyone was not apparently okay with that. People posted things.
Honestly, what Mark says there is really spot on like every level. I don't understand how anybody read that and could have a problem with what he's saying. Not if you're a leftist, not if you're not a racist individual, right?
Yeah. So what Mark Ruffalo tweeted, so he tweeted this, and then I screenshotted it. Dear people, despite our frustration over the fighting in Gaza and our anger, that is no excuse to attack or intimidate innocent people. Assaults of Jewish people or attacks on others won't bring justice to anyone, only perpetuate more injustice and hate. Let me make sure Biden's not on. He's not.
Yeah, keep checking on Biden. But yeah, and he's right. It just perpetuates more hate, and it's a vicious cycle, right?
Yeah.
On both.
So that is fine. What Mark tweeted was good and fine. And so I saw
and he's
that.
not both citing anything. He's saying, despite our frustration over the fighting in Gaza and our anger, right? So that is justified anger, right? I'd say it's extended beyond frustration. We need to demand it ends. And they are innocent people, but how are you going to correct that by assaulting Jewish folks? I mean, some of these Jewish folks you're assaulting are probably not even Zionists, for fuck's sake.
Right. And of course, anti-Semitism is an ongoing issue. And with
an ongoing issue.
The rise of Trump and his cronies and the people who felt emboldened by Trump being in office, it is rising, and it became a huge, even huger issue. It's always been a huge issue, but it was even more prevalent. Reporting in the field with Jordan, for example, months ago, was awful. Reporting with Trump supporters, they outright said disgusting things right to his face.
They called him Satan.
Yeah,
who does this? And you know what? I have to say, Jordan kept his cool. Like, I might have decked that guy.
Yeah,
Jordan he's such a pro. He just kept on keeping on. It was amazing.
I don't know how he did. Like, I ended up yelling. Like, I was so shocked. And this is something I ended up saying, but they ended up one of these guys, one of these Trump supporters. We were in Wisconsin at a Trump rally before the election, and I ended up. Well, this guy ended up saying, calling him a satanic Jew, and my mouth was like wide in shock. And he kept on going. Jordan kept on going with the interview. I don't know how he did. I wish with everything I had that I had just started yelling and screaming at the guy. I wish I had. I was so shocked, but I was so heated up that I ended up screaming and cursing, and I flipped off these Trump supporters afterwards because I was so hyped
Good for you. I don't blame you.
And I couldn't handle it. I couldn't handle the bigotry of these Trump supporters, and I was like, I'm really protective of Jordan. Like, he's one of my best friends, and I just couldn't take it. Like, I can't believe people were like that because he's Jewish. Like, I don't
I know.
Wrap my mind around it. So anyway, I simply posting that, and I was so mad at these people who responded. So stop with the lecture. And then, where are you seeing anti-Semitism? What a weird tweet when generations in Palestinians are being slaughtered. And people,
I don't know.
And he's like, why does he make it seem like only Jewish people are being attacked? I'm not attacking Jews. Both sides are leveling buildings, guys. Oh, wait. Where are you seeing attacks on Jewish people? So it kept going on and on. Like, people are
unbelievable.
I was like, what? What are you guys talking about? So I responded, why would anyone be triggered by this tweet? Anti-Semitism is never okay, full stop. This takes nothing away from our firm stance in reporting on Israel's apartheid state over Palestinians and the horrors and murder of Palestinians, including dozens upon dozens of innocent children. So to make my point, this was a reply on our Instagram. How can it be anti-Semitism if I'm angry at Jews for gleefully laughing at the murder of Palestinian children? If I tell a Jew to suck my effing balls and eat shit on a comment section, that isn't anti-Semitism. It's like, okay. So
It is. It absolutely fucking is, you piece of shit. It absolutely is.
People are horrible.
Jen, can I point something out, though? This is sort of what I was getting at by it creates more anti-Semitism in the world. Because this is the response. The responses are so anti-Semitic, right? They clearly are. These folks are like, I'm not being yes, you are. You are. But at base, you're doing this thing where you're conflating all Jewish people into one monolithic group. You're saying all Jews are responsible for what's happening that they might even absolutely disagree with, right? But they're still responsible. I'm going to hate them for it. Like, it's so infuriating to me because clearly that's not the case. And any leftist should be able to see through that. And they need to call it out too. And when I engaged that one gal.
I'll show her. God. It's insane. Whoops. Meme boy, 20 bucks in the super duper chat. Thank you. That's so helpful. Thank you. Oh my gosh. I was just losing my mind. I can't believe that these people were responding this way.
I can't either.
So I mean, I don't want to call it individuals, but like these people ended up being anti-Semitic. So where are you seeing anti-Semitism? What a weird tweet. Generations of Palestinians are being slaughtered. So I said, read our tweets and watch our videos. We are daily reporting on the horrors of what is happening to Palestinians at the hands of the state of Israel. That doesn't take away from anti-Semitism never being okay. And someone said completely.
And in fact, what really irks me on this is like, if you're an anti-fascist, like you are against fascism, you're against racism, then you need to be uniformly against it, period, end of story. I don't know any anti-fascist activist that would have a problem with what you posted. They'd be like, well, yeah, of course, anti-Semitism is wrong. Does that actually need to be said? You know what I'm saying? And like, I can't tell you how many times I have seen, if you recall, I remember sending this photo to Jordan as it was happening because I couldn't believe it. At one of these Trump rallies I was covering last year, there was guys like Nazi guys over there. One of them had a swastika tattoo. And then standing next to him was this guy with the Israeli flag draped over his shoulders like a cape. And I'm like, welcome to 2021. Like, how is this even a thing? And then, in fact, when I was in Huntington Beach a couple weeks ago filming that White Lives Matter nonsense, there was another guy there wearing an Israeli flag as a cape, hanging out with the Nazis and the Proud Boys. Like, this should be completely oxymoronic. It should be just counterintuitive, but it's a thing. And it shows you once again why Zionism and Judaism aren't the same thing and why Zionism why Zionism is embraced by white supremacists. I don't think that's a controversial statement.
Right. Well, apparently somehow I missed this speech, but
wait, what? It already happened?
Apparently so.
That was the world's shortest speech. All right, well, let's listen to it now.
Yeah, so here it is. Mr. Joseph Robinette Biden.
Folks, I've just spoken with Prime Minister Netanyahu. Earlier today, I spoke with President al-Sisi of Egypt. Prime Minister Netanyahu informed me that Israel has agreed to a mutual unconditional ceasefire to begin in less than 2 hours. The Egyptians have now informed us that Hamas and the other groups in Gaza have also agreed. In my conversation with President Netanyahu, I commended him for the decision to bring the current hostilities to a close in less than 11 days.
Oh,
are you kidding me?
The United States fully supports Israel's right to defend itself against
Jesus.
indiscriminate rocket attacks from Hamas.
Oh my God, make him stop.
That have taken the lives of innocent civilians in Israel. Folks,
all right, I need to find the longer one. Wow, though. To start with, wow.
Yeah, right off the gate, it's nonsense.
Yikes. Here we go. Longer.
Folks, I've just spoken with Prime Minister Netanyahu. Earlier today, I spoke with President al-Sisi of Egypt.
Hold on, sorry guys. There's two things flying at once.
It's got a nice echo to it.
Folks, I've just spoken with Prime Minister Netanyahu. Earlier today, I spoke with President al-Sisi of Egypt. Prime Minister Netanyahu informed me that Israel has agreed to a mutual unconditional ceasefire to begin in less than 2 hours. The Egyptians have now informed us that Hamas and the other groups in Gaza have also agreed. In my conversation with President Netanyahu, I commended him for the decision to bring the current hostilities to a close within less than 11 days. I also emphasized what I've said throughout this conflict. The United States fully supports Israel's right to defend itself against indiscriminate rocket attacks from Hamas.
Indiscriminate. Okay, we're going to have to pause and like yell in between.
Yeah, like Biden, get out of here with that.
Indiscriminate. Indiscriminate. No, it's not indiscriminate.
Hostilities. Right to defend ourselves. See, again, all of this stuff frames itself as if these are two separate sovereign nations engaging in war. That's not what's happening here. One is being occupied by another. An oppressed people will fight back, Biden. What part of that do you not understand? If Israel wants peace, they need to stop oppressing them. It's really that fucking simple.
Exactly. And he's saying like, oh, good job, Netanyahu. You stopped murdering Palestinian babies after only 11 days. Good job. You only murdered 65 of them. Wow.
Versus 20, versus the 2,000 or 2,500 people you did the last time. Yeah, comparison, right? Come on, man. As Biden would say, come on, man. That's malarkey.
He's totally framing Hamas, he's totally framing the Palestinians as the aggressors. No, Israel are the oppressors, and they're the ones in power. They're the ones in control. The Palestinians, Hamas, they were reacting to the stealing of property. Palestinians were protesting, throwing rocks, whatever. And Israel, with their highly targeted, highly powerful weapons, were murdering them. And so they reacted. Like, what? Why? Why do we have to lie? Yeah, if you're actually a good person, Biden,
he's not a good person.
Yes, you are. Well, clearly not. But like, why? Why do we have to lie? How could you be How could you stand up there and lie? I will never understand that. How could you lie about the deaths of babies? How? I can't wrap my mind around it.
Jen, Biden is an asshat, and Twitter won't let me say that.
That's true. Yeah, side note, Tina tried to type Biden as an asshat on Twitter and she was suppressed. So I was able to get that message out for her. So thankfully.
I don't understand this.
Let's go back to this message from Amtrak Joe.
From Dear Leader. Yeah, Amtrak Joe, there you go.
The lives of innocent civilians in Israel. Prime Minister also shared with me his
no mention of the babies in Palestine,
which our nations developed together and which has saved lives of countless Israeli citizens, both Arab and Jew. I assured him of my full support to replenish Israel's Iron Dome system to ensure its defenses and security in the future. Over the last 11 days, I spoke with the Prime Minister 6 times. I've also spoken with President Abbas of the Palestinian Authority more than once and part of our intense diplomatic engagement. And I want to also thank the Secretary of State, the Secretary of Defense, our National Security Advisor, and everyone on our team for their incredible efforts to bring this about, this outcome that we're about to see. You know, we've held intensive high-level discussions, hour by hour, literally. Egypt, the Palestinian Authority, and other Middle Eastern countries, with the aim of avoiding the sort of prolonged conflict we've seen in previous years when the hostility.
And you know what? Another thing that nobody talks about, except to smear Palestine, nobody talks about the fact that there are innocent Israelis who have been killed. And that is horrible. And it is really sad. It is really, really sad and horrible. Those innocent Israelis did not have to die. They did not have to die. And it is sad and it is awful. You know what else is sad and awful? That Biden is not mentioning the babies, the Palestinian babies that have been murdered. That he's not mentioning what's happening.
That he's not mentioning that there's an actual occupation going on, that he's trying to, there's so many things wrong with the rhetoric.
This is complete propaganda. He is leaving so much out.
He is, he's doing it intentionally. But my question is this: when does the American state come to terms with the fact that what they are enabling here isn't going to end because of this? This just slowed down the latest escalation of the problem, right? Has Biden done anything to move the embassy out of Jerusalem? The fact that Trump moved it there was an aggression, and it needs to be addressed as such. Has he done anything to stop the expansion of the illegal settlements that is happening right now in East Jerusalem? Nothing on that. Point being is the American government isn't addressing any of the root causes. They're not even barely putting a Band-Aid on the problem, right? What we need, in many ways, the structural change that we need here in the United States, we also need within the foreign policy dealings that we have with Israel, right? This needs an entire overhaul. It's just not working. It's just not working. And even if you're a Zionist, you have to be able to see that.
Right. Oh my God. This is too much, this propaganda.
That's exactly it. It is too much. But this is like propaganda we get from our government every day, that we get from every government, right?
Yeah.
This is sort of where we are in the world, and it's unfortunate, but at least we are talking about it. At least we're trying to do something to change it. And I think that is why it's starting to change. Honestly, if you go back and you look at the conversations that were being had in 2014 around the subject, they were nothing like they are today. Nothing. I mean, man, the crap that I got flung at me in 2014 for speaking out against this stuff was unbelievable. And it wasn't just me, you know, it was a host of people. I mean, Ronnie will tell you it was really bad. Stanley Cohen will tell you. I mean, you can go down any leftist Jewish person that had the audacity to say anything against Zionism was roundly just destroyed online. You know, I mean, just never ending trolls. It was really, really bad. So, and I see less of that happening this time, which is good.
Yeah.
So I think the Overton window has expanded, and that needed to happen. It's not there yet, believe me. Obviously Biden's still tone deaf. Read the room, Biden. Read the room.
Right.
For him to open his speech that way is just like, you had to be pushed to this place, and that's what you're going to open with? Come on, man. Come on, man. What's this malarkey?
Oh, Biden. All right.
Just, you know, he's just a tool of the military-industrial complex, like so many other presidents have been.
Yeah, of course.
These are broken out. I extend my sincere gratitude to President al-Sisi and the senior Egyptian officials who played such a critical role in this diplomacy. I also appreciate the contributions of other parties in the region who've been engaged in working toward the end of hostilities. These hostilities have resulted in the tragic deaths of so many civilians, including children. And I send my sincere condolences to all the
Including what kind of children? What kind of children, Biden?
Exactly.
You freak.
families, Israeli and Palestinian.
There we go.
Lost
A little
loved ones,
mention.
My hope for a full recovery for the wounded. The United States committed to working with the United Nations, and we remain committed to working with other.
Except for that time where you didn't.
Stop. That is so offensive what he just said. Committed to working with the United Nations. Look, they refuse to join the ICC. So does the United States. Neither Israel nor the United States of America are party to the ICC, which is the International Criminal Courts at Hague, right? There's a reason for that. We've both committed war crimes, right? And they know it. They know if we join, we'll be on trial for war crimes. So that's part one. Part two, every time a security resolution comes before the UN, who vetoes it? We do, right? Because we have veto power. We can stop anything from ever changing on Israel simply through
the holdout.
Simply through doing that. We are always the right. So for him to now turn around and say I'm committed to working for the UN is absolute bullshit.
It was
just not true.
It's like a list of everybody and then us, not like us, just us.
It's just not true.
We could have changed this right away, immediately.
That's right. Yeah.
And
we don't want to.
He's a disingenuous, soulless monster.
He really is, man. I kept thinking how much better things would be if Bernie Sanders was president. I just have to say that.
Oh my God, yeah. Yep.
He certainly would have handled this. Look, Bernie would not have gone as far as I needed him to. I will say that. So let me be clear on that. He's not far enough to the left for me in this area as he needs to be, but he's definitely more so, and he definitely has a better understanding of the problem.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
And I love Bernie.
I know. He's the best we have. He needs to be better, but especially on foreign policy.
He's a pretty good mensch. Let's be honest. I love Bernie.
I stand Bernie. And he is pushable. I do think that he plays the game he has to have. He does listen. Yeah. He would have been much better.
He would have been much better on every.
Provide rapid humanitarian assistance and the martial financial support for the people of Gaza and the Gaza.
Yeah, I'm sure you'll do that. There's not much you can do when they've murdered the doctors.
Reconstruction efforts.
Wait, hang on. Reconstruction efforts. What is he talking about? They can't even bring construction goods past the blockade into Gaza. Dude, come on. What part of anything you're saying right now makes sense?
Authority, not Hamas, authority. In a manner that does not permit Hamas.
They're gonna circumvent the elected.
That's what it sounds like. Wait, play that again. You said the Palestinian Authority and not Hamas?
Yeah.
Which makes no sense. The Palestinian Authority is in the West Bank. This is Gaza.
In a manner that does not permit Hamas to simply restock its military arsenal.
Restock its military arsenal? What the fuck are you talking about?
Deserve to live safely and securely and enjoy equal measures of freedom, prosperity, and democracy. My administration will continue a quiet, relentless diplomacy toward that end.
Quiet.
I believe we have a genuine opportunity.
But how are they restocking anything? They can't restock water, let alone military supplies. What is he smoking?
May God bless you all and pray that this can.
Pray. Let's pray. Everybody pray. It's working so well.
For the love of God, tell me there's some press members there that pushed him on this stuff. Please. That's restocking their weapons.
Questions? I doubt it. He probably ran him over he did at that.
He ran exactly.
He threatens that press woman. Oh my lordy. Let's pray.
We're talking about an area that doesn't have potable water, okay? Doesn't have potable water. And he's saying they're going to reconstruct their buildings, but we have to stop them from reconstructing their weapons supplies. Who does he think they're buying weapons from, for fuck's sake? How does this make sense? I mean, that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard anyone say. Jen, they're stacking the rocks and knitting together with their leftover socks, the things that they throw the rocks with, as we speak. Is that what he's referring to?
I don't know. I mean, what do we do, man?
I just get so sick of this stuff, and I get sick of our fellow press people not calling this out. Can we get back to our get back to like how it was pre-COVID, where we can travel again and like? Because I just need to rail.
We're back.
I gotta tell you right now, if I had been there when Biden said, when that guy said, I'm going to run you over and get in front of the car, that whole thing. I'm
in front of the car, and
I'm in front of the car. Exactly. I legit would have gone and stood in front of the car.
How are those freak journalists not yelling the question and standing in front of the car instead of they're like cackling like demons? What are they doing? I don't understand those journalists. I would not last a day at mainstream media.
And then Tina cackles like a demon at Jen's show.
I cannot wrap my mind around those journalists who were like,
I would have.
He said he would run her over for asking a question about Israel.
I legit would have stood in front of his car. I would have dared him. I'm like, I'm asking you, run me over.
Cool. I'm
like, okay, do your worst.
Literally,
here's my list of questions. Do your worst.
Yeah, literally, I'm going to stand in front of this car and I'm going to ask you this question. Great, let's do it.
Let's do it.
Without hesitation.
Let's get it on, Biden.
That is what I will do.
Let's get it on. Wait, hang on. Where's the cameraman? You got this?
I cannot deal with it. Those journalists.
I can't either.
I can't. No, not happening in my world.
I would not have accepted that.
And that's why we're status coup. GoFundMe.com/status coup.
Right. Slingshots. Thank you. Slingshots. They're making slingshots out of socks and they're stacking the rubble to put into the slingshots. That's how they're whatever. Biden. Like, really, Biden? Really?
God, like everything's fun. Everything's.
But are there people in the world that watch that and be like, yeah, cool, gotcha. Okay.
Yes,
there are, isn't they?
They're actually believe that viewers.
Okay, but they actually believe Hamas is out there on the arms market buying weapons. Like,
yes, like I would tell. Yeah,
how is that not laughable?
All of the conservatives believe this. All of the Democrat Biden people believe this. Everybody, except for all of our cool people.
I mean. Obviously, they get their hands on some remedial rockets, but I mean, come on, they're not out there restocking their weapons. Like, good Lord.
Despite the ceasefire agreement, there are still reports of hostilities in Israel and the Gaza Strip. We can hear some sounds of explosions here and there. Khalid Shaban, a humanitarian worker in Gaza City, told Al Jazeera, what do we have, 15 more minutes until ceasefire?
Yeah, they're going to get as much as they can in. But regardless, it's not going to stop. And, somebody in the chat mentioned this mowing the lawn thing. God, that is just so. So for folks that don't know, that's a term that they use, mowing the lawn. So they have to go into Gaza and blow things up every few years just to maintain, to keep the natives from being restless, kind of a thing. They use the term mowing the lawn. It's really
disgusting.
Depraved. Like, I just don't understand how they don't hear how that sounds.
Right. Yeah, so there are reports of continued, things happening back and forth. Let's see if there are any updates. We have been streaming for quite some time. Sirens sound in communities in Gaza border half an hour before ceasefire due to begin.
Gosh, we had all of these non-Israel things to talk about today, and then this happened, and it took over the news cycle again.
Yeah, we had a big list, a good list too.
There's all these other important things happening right now too. There's just too much.
Yeah. We'll do it tomorrow. You never know. Actually, I'm going to DC to report. Let's see. Yeah, so it's very, very late, early in the morning there. Mm-hmm. Man lightly injured by rocket shrapnel in Gaza? From Gaza. Siren sound in Israel's heavy financial damage in Israel and Gaza. Yeah. Okay. So, that's what we know right now. A little over 10 minutes, I guess, 13 minutes until ceasefire. I guess
at least there's that.
Let's take questions. Let's do super chat round. We would love super chats. We need to buy another live view sort of device. We might go with another company this time. But we do need another device to go live in the field. I purchased some new equipment to make it easier for me to go live with a better signal in the field.
What did you buy? Yeah, because it's really hard with the phone. Like, I mean, everybody say just use your phone, but it's not so much the iPhone that's terrible. It's a good camera and all. It's the signal. When you get a lot of people on the internet at the same time, your regular signal won't work. And I was using a hotspot to do the live stream last weekend. And I couldn't connect without the hotspot, just as a side. And even then I was like, I'm going to lose this at some point, I think. And you don't get as crisp of a image. You get some delays.
Yeah.
So just so people understand what we're talking about, because they're probably thinking, well, why don't you just use your phone? Because you can't.
Yeah, these devices like bond multiple signals into one. So that's what the live view does, and that's what these devices that we're looking into do. The issue is the data plans are very expensive. We pay probably $1,000 a month for the live view, depending on the month, depending on how much we need that signal and all the fees and stuff. So the thing I got is it just it doesn't bond signals, but it like does a better job of pooling the AT&T signal. Okay. So we'll see. I hope it works better.
I'm curious to see. Yeah.
To see. So it has more like power to pool, and then we have the plan on AT&T that prioritizes our signal like over everybody else's. So we'll see. Let's hope. So it's supposed to be a protest for Palestine. We'll see. I think they'll probably still have it, even with a ceasefire. We'll see. So
yeah, I think so. I think people are want to see real structural change to what's happening. I don't think they're just going to settle at this point for the ceasefire and say, okay, we're good now, because they know we're not good now. This will just keep happening over and over and escalating until some of the root causes are dealt with. And that means change. That means permanent change. That means Gaza cannot be what it is today. Cannot be. That means the settlements occupation cannot stay the way it is. So, what I'd like to see again is a real democracy form there where everybody has equality under the law across the board. But that statement is very threatening to a lot of the hard right Jewish folks there.
Yeah. Okay, so let's take a couple questions. Super chats are very, very welcome. We did purchase new equipment. We need more equipment, like thousands of dollars worth. GoFundMe.com/status coup. I saw a question from Donnie. Where'd it go? Oh, there it is. Where'd it go again? Johnny, where'd your question go? Here he is. Is the United States on the correct side of any geopolitical issue? I don't think so. Is there any? No. The answer is a flat no. No.
I can't think of a single one.
No. I think truly we're not.
And let me really clarify. I believe that Donnie is talking about from a moral perspective, an ethical perspective, not an empire perspective, right? So everything that happens in the United States is framed from the perspective of empire, right? What serves the business interests of American corporations. So that cannot be the answer, right? If you're coming from an ethical perspective. So the straight up answer to that, in my opinion, is no.
Yeah, I think that we do not take any moral stance. We don't do anything for the good of anybody else. We don't do anything for the good of ourselves. We do things for the good of money and for the military industrial complex and for the elite. And so, no.
Yeah. Good point. We don't do anything good for ourselves, too, because that extends into what we see as far as not just foreign policy, right? Domestic policy, too. Clearly. Yeah. If we did, we would have Medicare for all. That wouldn't be a fight, right? There would be no fight for that.
Yeah.
It'd be a done deal. It would be simple.
Right. Yeah. Where we should be like rolling in money, all of us. If we were like doing things for the good of Americans, we would all just be like bathing in money and like medical care and like food, and like we would all be great. No, we suck, and it's all just for the elites, and it's terrible. We had another question. Any pot takes on Rudy Giuliani's son running for New York governor? Yes, they have a pot take on that. I'm so angry. Rudy Giuliani's stupid looking son is the reason that I got COVID. And he's like I don't want to make fun of anybody's looks, but I will make fun of his looks because he's so crazy looking. He looks terrible. He looks like I always get the Trump kids mixed up, but he looks like the worst looking Trump kid.
Eric
or someone. Yeah, probably Eric. And
my vote is Eric.
And like, what qualifications does he have? None. And he was raised by Giuliani. And so, well, what good does that do you? None. And no. Why? Who's going to vote for him? Hopefully no one.
No one. But I mean, we had a history for a while there of people electing off of names, right? We have multiple Bush presidents, multiple Clintons running for office, like this whole idea that you sort of inherit some sort of, I don't know, it's sort of like royalty, except it's American politics, right? But I think Americans are past that. And I love that you're the pot takes.
Pot takes. Yeah. I don't think, like, at this point, Rudy's destroyed his name among everybody except for QAnon folks. So I don't even think that would carry any weight among anyone, but
not substantially enough in that area. It's not like, I mean, the district that Marjorie Taylor Greene is in is very different.
Oh
right?
my gosh.
Composition wise. Yeah, that lunatic. Yeah.
I haven't even watched that video of Marjorie Taylor Greene in 2019, like yelling at it, like stalking AOC's office and yelling at her. I haven't watched it, but I read a transcript. It's like, whoa.
It's absolute lunacy. It's absolute lunacy. It's lunacy.
Whoops. I didn't mean to click that, but there we go. Cheryl, so Mexico and Canada are on either side of the U.S. How should countries react to Biden's last speech? Well, I don't know what it has to do with them being on either side, but I think as far as like,
I think she's saying they're close to us and we're imperialist.
Well, no? I think like anybody should. No, I mean, I don't get, like, I don't know what matters, like where they're located. I guess is like what I don't get. I think they should react by saying
they're closer to harm's distance.
We're dumbasses. I don't know. What do you think?
They should be angry too. They won't be though, because they have sort of similar ideologies in relationship to Israel. Now, if you want to broaden that into a larger conversation about foreign policy, then I think you're going to start seeing some differences. Cheryl, give us a run up to that so we know if that's what you're getting at there.
Yeah, do that. Let's see. Any more questions? We are running quite long. 4 more minutes until ceasefire.
Yeah, we're doing the countdown. We're not getting off until there's a ceasefire.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, here. Speaking of Mexico, apparently Biden is continuing to build the wall. Trump. Yes. Chris, yes. Yes. That is absolutely true. Biden was continuing to build the wall. I think he's kind of slowed down on that now and might backtrack from it. But, again, here's the thing that I find very telling about where we're at. Has Biden done some good things? Yes, he's done some good things. But the thing is this, anybody that's calling him a very progressive president should really look at whether or not he has changed policies that were implemented by the Trump administration, whether he has replaced people in positions of power that Trump had appointed, because you'll see time and time again that that's not the case. How many positions has he changed at DHS, for example? Speaking of building the wall, right? There hasn't been a wholesale changing of the guard, is what I'm getting at, and I think that's telling in a way.
Oh yeah, you're right. Bridget says, I believe this time around, with the various marches held and the discussions on Israel-Palestine on alternative media, status quo, etc., the fake mask of Israel was blown off. I do think, and I've heard others say this, I asked Abby this in our interview, that there seems to be a shift, and I think more people are paying attention.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
No, I think there's definitely a shift. There's an absolute shift.
I hope that people, with the ceasefire and stuff, like, don't just go back to sleep. So I don't know.
So do I. Because if nothing changes structurally, this is just going to keep happening. There's no security there, and I implore Israelis to understand that there's no security there. The only way to secure security for yourselves is to secure security for everybody that's there. It's really that simple. And oppressed people will continue to fight for their freedom. I don't see how you don't see that.
Right. Yeah.
You can't keep mowing the lawn.
Right. Jeez.
I mean, the fact that you even think that that's an okay thing to do to begin with is frightful. That's a given. But also, for your own sake of security, if that's the point of view you're coming from, how do you not see why that's not going to lead eventually to security? It's just not.
Yeah. 5D, do you believe Biden is an improvement over Trump? Yes, absolutely. Biden
yes, I will give that.
Horrible, and I hate him. And
that doesn't mean terrible. I like him.
He's a monster. But yeah, he's absolutely 100%.
He's definitely an improvement over Trump. I can't imagine that there are people that might not think that's true, but I definitely think it's true. That doesn't mean
there are people who would hate us and be like, oh my God, I can't believe you think that he is an improvement over Trump. Why do you like Biden?
No, I don't like him.
Yeah, but they're people
he's
who are not nuanced and will be like, why are you such a fan of Biden? It's like, no, I literally just called him a monster. Like, why do you love him? Like, no, I just said he's a monster.
Twitter,
like, why are you such a fan? Like, no, I'm not a fan. But
the next time somebody says that, I'm gonna be like, I'm sorry, Twitter would not let me tweet Biden as an asshat. Okay, that actually happened.
Yeah, he's of course an improvement over Trump, absolutely. But he sucks and he's terrible and I hate him.
It's just a sad state of
affairs. Time.
Ceasefire.
Let's see any updates. It is officially ceasefire time.
What is the improvement, though? Well, look, I mean, Trump was a freaking fascist. I think people should be able to see that pretty clearly. He was enabling all kinds of things with climate change that were very bad. There was a lot of stuff happening under the Trump administration that absolutely wasn't getting reported. I think let's start with that. And I think the damage is continuing to be done because, of course, Biden hasn't undone all of it. He's undone some of it, though. Like, he has made changes he's definitely an improvement.
He signed some good executive orders when he first came in.
Some people are saying so is Biden. Biden's a fascist too, but come on, guys. Is he the level of fascist that Trump is?
No. He's definitely not.
I don't think he is either.
It's absurd, guys. Like, there's one thing to be like, oh, anti-Dem, like whatever. That's one thing, but to say that Biden and Trump are the same is just simply not true.
Yeah,
it's just not true. That's silly.
Okay, so all right, I will accept Biden as a fascist light. It's a different level. Yeah,
no,
that's what we're getting at.
He's not a fascist either. I don't even think that's true.
He has some fascist tendencies. So did Obama. I think
if
all
we
Americans
use the term
do.
fascist for Biden, like that's a real fair stretch.
All right, that's fair. Okay.
Authoritarian. There's no real update. Huh. Interesting. Both sides prepare to take stock. If the ceasefire holds, all sides involved will begin to take stock of whether this latest chapter of the conflict between Israel and Hamas has caused any genuine shift in how things were just 11 days ago. Yeah, it will not. Yeah, I don't know. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has said his country's aim was to degrade the military capabilities of Hamas and other Palestinian militants, and that has been achieved, if once again, at great human cost. But Israelis will be asking if all the bombardments on Gaza will in reality prevent another deadly showdown with Hamas, which will greet its survival as a victory. What Palestinians and their supporters far beyond Gaza will be hoping is that their cause has been restored to the world's attention, making it once again an urgent live issue that needs to be addressed. Israelis will be hoping that the internal unrest between Palestinian and Jewish Israelis, with a level of violence not seen for decades, will now subside. But a younger generation of Palestinians has found a new sense of identity and purpose and is determined not to allow a return to the status quo. Okay, well, that's like a worthless article.
I mean, really, the conversation, I'm reading the chats on this. Really, the conversation could be like sort of what Ronnie was getting at the other day, whether or not, the liberals are enabling the worst aspects of the fascist regime, right? That is also true, I think, for the United States. I think some folks are more concerned about that than they are the fascism itself, because enabling it to a lesser
I think it's
extent.
a real luxury to call the United States right now a fascist, it's just not a fascist government right now, guys. It's just not. We don't live under fascism. I think it's a huge...
We live under plutonymy.
Yes, absolutely.
There are fascist elements to that, in my opinion. Very strong fascist elements to that. But we do still have some semblance of a First Amendment, some semblance of some other things. Those things are slowly eroding. I don't think that's controversial to say that.
Yeah, of course.
I think we should all be concerned.
I think we all need to be concerned. I think we
But this is why, okay, but
aware.
Follow me on this, but this is why I think Trump is worse. Trump was readily enabling those things, emboldened, pushing them to the nth degree. Biden is doing that less so. Is he part and parcel to that? Yes. I'm not going to dispute that. But there is some nuance here, is what I'm saying. So that's my case. Is there some nuance here? I understand. I understand fully the problems. I think Ben does too.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. Yeah. Okay, so ceasefire is supposedly on. I don't trust Netanyahu at all.
No, you shouldn't. I mean, I
don't
trust
trust
Biden.
the media at all. I don't trust Biden. I don't trust anyone. Omar, I don't acknowledge that Biden is more pro-war than Trump. I think Trump is too stupid. I think he listened to absolutely anyone.
Trump, hang on. Let's
Trump
talk about this.
happened to not fall into that. It was
Trump
just
is incredibly pro-war. I don't know how he got this label as being not pro-war.
Yeah, Biden's absolutely pro-war.
What?
Totally.
Yeah, what war was he not continuing on? What war was he not? I don't understand. Yes, no.
Biden loves war.
Shit out of
Mm-hmm.
I know that he argued that he was to run for office, but he certainly didn't end up being that guy.
Yeah.
I don't know how that label is sticking, honestly, given his actions.
Yeah. Biden's like, yes, let's go. Let's do it. Yeah. Yeah. It's we live in a horrible country who is very destructive around the world.
Yeah, that's the case. Biden is not going to change that. I'm fully aware of that, and it's wrong. I think we're all fully aware of that. I'm just saying that Trump was part and parcel to that too. I don't understand why he gets a pass.
Yeah, Trump does not get a pass. That's the thing. That's the Tucker trick, the Tucker Carlson trick. Tucker tricks people into thinking that he's anti-war and whatever.
Does he? Is that some?
Yeah.
I don't pay attention to Tucker. So
Tucker absolutely tricks people into thinking that he's anti-war, and that's how he's swaying because the younger old light folks are anti-war and
wink wink.
Yeah, right.
Are they really? They're not really. They're not really. They're fine sustaining American empire as long as they don't have to look at the dead bodies. Let's be honest.
Yeah. So they're they're in that way. And so like Trump is like, he listens to the last guy who got in his ear. And so that's why like Tucker would call him and be like, hey, I think you shouldn't like bomb Syria right now. and he'd be like, okay. And so, it's just a real stroke of luck that Trump didn't blow up whatever at the moment.
Oh yeah. So Michael's saying Trump's not, I'm not saying everybody in the chat is giving Trump a pass. I don't think people are doing that at all. Just to clarify, I'm saying as a generality, I see a lot of people giving him a pass on that in the war arena, and I just don't understand it at all. Like, no, yeah, Trump was as much of a warmonger as any other American president was.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very weird, I think, that some people are trying to give Trump a pass on that. I don't get that at all. He just simply was not in government and didn't have the chance to be a war criminal in the past. So that is simply.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, hang on now. I'm pretty sure that there are plenty of instances, if we had access to the data and the information, where Trump was probably guilty of war crimes in the 4 years he was in office.
I'm saying he doesn't have the 500 years that Biden had.
Oh, yeah. Biden has a history of shit. Yeah, no doubt. That's definitely.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
I'm not going to disagree with you on that. He has a horrible track record. Look, there was a reason he was the bottom of the list for the Democratic primary nominee. And the fact that he prevailed and is on top is a really bad statement about where the DNC is at, in my opinion. And the fact that they turned around and put Kamala Harris in the VP position, also a bad assessment, because she couldn't even make it out of the second primary. She was so unpopular. How these two are in office right now is just a mind blow. Let's say that. I mean, there was a million other people running in that primary that would have been better than both of them.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, I'm going to say Bernie Sanders is by a mile better than the rest of them, but
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I don't know. Guys, it's okay that we disagree. Like, I totally disagree with some of you in the comments who are calling like Biden an outright fascist. I think that's like crazy, to be honest, but that's okay. We're allowed to disagree. I think it's really discrediting to progressives to call Biden a fascist. You know how nutso that sounds to the rest of the world? To call Biden a fascist, and how privileged that sounds to the rest of the world who like live under those regimes.
Yeah, he's okay. So like if you compare him to Bolsonaro, or what's going on in Myanmar, yeah, there's definitely a distinction, or the Philippines,
Yeah. It just sounds nuts to everybody else. So it's fine if you think that. It's also fine if I don't think that. We can disagree, but I think like
definitely. But look, Aria, I agree with you. Biden does push regimes. He absolutely does.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the thing. Let me make something really clear. My position on this really clear. The American government pushes regime. This is not something that has anything.
We do not live under one.
We do not live under one, but yes, they push for fascist regime change all over the damn world and have done so for decades because it serves American empire, it serves American business interests, and it's disgusting.
Yep, I 100% agree with that. Yeah, so I think that is a distinction.
So hang on, but I see her point. Her point is this: it's American privilege because you don't live under those fascist regimes that he's promoting abroad, but other people do. And the ones that are living under that. Mm-hmm. Have a very different feeling of Biden, but I would say that extends to the entire American government, period, end of story, right? And that is a fair point. That is absolutely a fair point.
Well, I think that it comes across as privileged to say that Biden is a fascist and that we live.
No, I'm saying, hang on, no, Jen, but no, she's not speaking from an American's point of view. Understand what she's saying. She's saying, I don't live in America. Your president's a fascist. Look what he's done to my country. So
she lives in Canada.
Whoever I'm saying, I don't know where this person I'm making up lives. I'm saying other people in other countries. I'm saying that's the perspective she's coming from. So if she's saying that's the person I'm talking about is arguing from that point of view, which I understand.
We can disagree. I completely disagree with that. I agree completely that we lift up regimes, that we lift up fascism, that we support Saudi Arabia, that we're horrible, that we lied about who did 9/11, which was Saudi Arabia, and that we were I fully believe complicit in allowing that to happen and ignoring warning signals, etc., that we support Netanyahu and that we are complicit in what they are doing, the state of Israel and the IDF is doing to Palestinians, that we have done so many horrific war crimes. I believe that we are the biggest terrorists on the planet, 100%. But is Biden a fascist? Do we live under fascism? No, we don't.
No, we don't. We cause fascism in other countries.
Yeah,
I think that's
to say that Biden is a fascist, is our country fascistic? No, it is not. That is what I'm saying.
No, I agree with you. I don't think the United States, that our Constitution, whatever is that. I'm saying what these folks are saying is that he does create fascism abroad. Ergo, if you live in one of those countries where that's happened, you're going to perceive him as a fascist. There's a subtle difference there.
I think you would have to talk to people in those countries about that, and not someone in Canada. So
Canada has universal health care. Let's go to Canada.
I wish we did. That would be fantastic. Okay, guys, we've been going for about 3 hours. The last bit of update. Ceasefire hour begins. A ceasefire between Israel and Palestinian militant group Hamas has begun. The truce came into effect at 2 local time, so 2 a.m. on Friday. It begins and ends to 11 days of bombardment in which more than 240 people have died, mostly in Gaza, and over 60 children, I believe around 65 children are included in that total, which is just absolutely horrific. Absolutely horrific. So I hope that this holds. We'll see what kind of happens next. I hope that people don't stop caring, because what happens in Gaza, and again, watch Abby Martin's Gaza Fights for Freedom, because she covers not only what happens when they're active, military IDF strikes, but also the day-to-day, the non-potable water, and
she does a really great. I finally was able to watch it. It's a really good documentary. She does this great deep dive into the 2018 March of Return protests that were happening and how the snipers were just shooting at folks. She's put it all together in a really cohesive way. So I highly recommend watching this. It's a really good documentary.
Aria, of course, I'm not saying it doesn't count as much. That's incredibly the opposite of what I'm saying. In fact, I'm saying we're horrible. We're the worst terrorists on the planet. I don't understand what you're not getting about what I'm saying. I'm saying Americans are privileged and sheltered and stupid, and that we're the worst terrorists on the planet. Like, I literally don't understand what you're not getting. But I love you, and you're great, and we always agree before this, but we suck, and Americans are terrible. Like,
let's just all go for a beer.
So yeah, Alejandra,
I get what you're both saying.
Definitely contact me. I definitely want to hear from you, Alejandra. Contact me, info@CEASEFIRE.com. Absolutely. Colombia is for sure in dire circumstances. I definitely want to hear it firsthand from you. The U.S. empire is, as you fully know, being there is ruining you're ruining your country, and I want to hear from you for sure. It would be great if you could come over and interview. Cat's Roar saying, "Oh my God, leave the country." That is the stupidest argument that people have. Like, oh, if you don't like it, leave. That's so stupid. Like, get a new argument.
Wait,
that's
did someone actually say that?
Yeah, on Twitch.
Wait, you're not allowed to. Wait, I'm sorry. You're not allowed to criticize your government when your government is doing things that are wrong? That's ridiculous. No matter where I lived in the world, I happen to be born here in the United States. I'm an American. I will criticize my government when it does something wrong.
Like
That
my
is part
government,
of democracy.
my government is responsible for murdering brown people all across the world, and I'm not supposed to like care. I'm not supposed to call that out. My government is responsible for financing
Misguided
war crimes.
patriotism is just very ridiculous. That to me is misguided patriotism. If anybody understands this country and its constitutional rights, they would not be saying something that ridiculous.
It's so stupid.
First Amendment, it is stupid. Come on.
So
now.
I'm supposed to, so Kat, I'm supposed to just be like, okay, that's cool. I agree just because I live here. No, if I see something wrong, I'm going to call it out. If I see that especially because it's my country. If it's my country, I'm going to say, hey, you asshole Biden, stop doing this. I'm going to stand up for people. If I see
we don't do that,
I
who
will.
will? It's not, you know, I mean, are these other folks in these other countries going to stand up to our government in the same way and be effective in that? No, of course not. We have to do it. We have an obligation. We have a responsibility as Americans to hold our government accountable. That should not be a controversial statement. So no, I'm not leaving. And yes, I'm going to stand up to our government and any ounce of corruption and garbage that I see. That's my duty.
Aria, I still want you to come on. I haven't had time. I have a backed up emails. I do still want you to come on. I do apologize that I haven't gotten back. I do still want to have that panel. But I have several emails I haven't gotten to. Jordan's still out. He's probably going to be out for the rest of the month because, so he's back now. He got back yesterday.
Oh, yeah, he had a nice trip.
He had a wonderful trip. He had a great time. He and I had a wonderful time. But he's still, you know, he's tired. Like he'd been working because I was sick for so long, and I'm still sick, but I'm on medicine that's helping me have more energy and stuff and get through work stuff. But he's, you know, he needs more rest. So it's Colin's helping so much, but I'm catching up on stuff that like was backed up before. So as far as like emails go, I have probably 300 to go through. So
wow.
So Aria, I'm not ignoring your email. I have Firsty's email to get back to as well. Firsty, who's in the Twitch chat, who helps out so much. Canvas Dancer, I love you so much. I have your email to get back to as well. I love all of you. I am just up to my ears and stuff to do. I'm reporting. I'm doing back-end marketing stuff. I have I'm talking to our accountant and getting our books in order for taxes. I'm working with our new website developers. So there's a lot of stuff that you guys don't realize that I'm doing in the background. So if anyone feels like I'm missing them or forgetting them, that's not the case. I'm just simply one person who is sick, who has 2 children and a whole bunch of stuff going on. So I love you all. Thank you so much for watching. We are officially at 3 hours. And so we'll see what's happening this weekend. I believe Colin's going back to Dallas to report again on Marvin Scott. I believe I'm going to DC to report on Palestine. I don't know what else is happening, but we'll see, and I will let you guys all know. And yeah, we'll see. We'll see what's happening. We'll keep you up to date. And yeah, it's all good. Any updates? Any parting thoughts, Tina?
No, I just hope the ceasefire maintains itself in the short term. And then in the long term, I'd like to see some actual structural change. But that's not going to be easy to have happen. It's not going to happen on its own.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Well, I hope you guys all have a wonderful Thursday evening. This is good news. I'm happy for the ceasefire. I'm very cautious of everything. And I'm hopeful that people will keep their eyes open and keep fighting for what's right. And I don't know, hopeful, always hopeful. Keep your head up, guys, and keep fighting for what's right. And I'm so grateful for all of you. You're amazing people. You guys are the ones who see what's going on. You see the injustices in the world, and you're willing to fight for other people, and that makes you guys all amazing. So peace and love to all of you. I stole that from you, Omar. Good saying. Bye guys.